3 p.m. school board workshop. Please rise for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and our national anthem. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Ramirez, present.
Janie, Ruddy.
Furry, present.
Christy, Chong.
LaShakia Moore.
Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda?
We do not.
Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Furry, second by Ms. Ruddy. All in favor?
Aye.
And do we have anybody for public comment?
No, we do not.
We'll move on to finance consent, 7.01, Imagine Charters.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bush.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Board members, and Superintendent Moore. Mrs. Bush and I are here to answer any questions you have on finance consent, beginning with 7.01, charter school financials.
I was just going to say a comment. I know we can't do anything about it, but support services, is it really showing over 200% of their budget? Or is that?
Can you tell me what page you're on?
I don't have the page, I just have my notes. For support services.
Instructional support services.
But I don't know, I just thought, like, just wanted to point that out, 200% over budget, but I know we can't do anything.
I think it's, are you talking about 193%? They had their maintenance of plant.
Yeah.
And then
Is that-
325% deficiency of revenue over expenditures.
Yeah.
So did they have something clearly go wrong at their building?
Yeah,
No,
most
it's
likely.
unexpected.
I can reach out to the,
Yeah. And I didn't know if it was a typo or.
no, it's not a typo. I can reach out to.
Okay.
These are generated straight from their system.
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of getting an explanation.
Okay.
And it could be that they just have not adjusted their budget to compensate for changes.
Okay.
I know we only adjust our budget after third calc and then after fiscal year ends.
Okay.
I'm not sure what their routine is,
Okay. Thank you.
but I'll make a note of that.
And then, yeah, they've gone over by 15,000 in salaries and 13,000 in employee benefits from what they budgeted.
What page are you on?
That is page 4. And I I think Ms. Ramirez was also referring to page 5 where it says student support services where there are 206% over that. So it's several categories. Why is there never a representative from Imagine to be able to answer questions regarding their financials?
If there was a request for someone from Imagine to come and discuss their financials, we would send them that request. In the past, if there were questions, it definitely was done on a monthly basis, usually once a year. If there were questions, then we would send that request to them, and the principal at the time, or whoever would show up.
Okay.
I'm not sure how local the regional finance person is, because he oversees many different territories.
I would love to hear if we think we should make it a common practice when they're in excess over a certain percentage that perhaps they're coming to provide some insight.
And Tammy York is the charter school liaison. I'm not sure that we can make that a requirement, but it would also help if we got some of these questions in advance. That way I can reach out to the regional finance person and get some of these questions answered. I'll send him the questions that you all brought up, and we'll get a response if they're responsive, but that would help to alleviate unanswered questions at the table.
Any other questions, comments on this? Okay, we'll
No.
go on to 7.02 for purchase orders over 10,000.
This is the one with the vehicles on it? Yeah, I'd love to have a conversation around this.
I will have operations come up for your questions.
Good afternoon, Board, Chair, Superintendent.
Can you clarify, these are Ford Transit vehicles, so are these for school use at the individual sites, and are they for transporting students?
For the list of vehicles that we have on the 10,000 and over, there are 2 of them that are for the transport of students. That is, those are 2 vans that we're replacing. There's a Dodge Caravan and another Dodge Caravan vehicle that we're replacing.
So minivans?
They are a Ford, basically a 250 chassis. It's the same vans that we have at the high schools currently right now.
So what's the passenger capacity?
10.
Okay, so it's not
10
necessarily a
including the
minivan, it's a
driver.
little bit larger than that?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
mainly they use them for athletics and those
Okay.
type of purposes.
And so what's the state of the current vehicles that we have that we're using for this?
So we have the 2 that we're replacing are Dodge Caravans, which are a 7-passenger van. And they are, one's a 2008, and then one's a 2011.
Do we have any vehicles in our current fleet that we'd be able to, instead of buying new, swap that are sitting here at GSB? Is there anything with that size capacity
Well,
for passengers?
the Ford Explorers that we have are really a 6-passenger vehicle. And we do have Expeditions that we bought several years ago for the high schools that are 8-passenger vehicles. But the vans are really, where they have a team that they need to travel with, having a 10-passenger van is a
I'm trying to
plus.
think what sport would have, like, I know the smaller clubs, but if you have a sports team, generally, when they have over 10, I know that's not your question, but wouldn't they check out a vehicle, like a bus, from our other fleet? So are these more club activity
It's
vehicles?
club, different activities for transporting, but there are some smaller teams that do use this. It can be
They might
go
take
for-
two
take two of them.
vans to.
Yes, especially it's with smaller teams. It is difficult for our buses to be able to turn around and pick up a transport So we do have some of our teams or our clubs that are checking out vehicles and driving smaller teams, be it a team or a club, to different activities.
Miss Ruddy, Tiger Bay is an example. I'm just thinking like the two high schools bring the vans, probably those vans you're talking about, and
vans
they
or the Explorers,
put
yeah.
the students in those organizations, and they bring them to Tiger Bay on a monthly basis. So that's, I know, like
Right, so I'm
club-wise.
trying to determine, you know, obviously in this time where we've got to be careful, and we have a plethora of fleet vehicles here at GSB, which I'm not sure what was in stock. I had sent an email previously of how many are here, and not necessarily not all of them are assigned to people, right? They're for the leadership here at the GSB to go and visit other schools and staff, and for this purpose. So I'm just trying to make sure, hey, let's take another look. Do we have some capacity with our fleet vehicles instead of buying new that aren't being utilized? You know,
And if we were to push this back, what are we looking at for costs for repairs and things?
And that's one thing that we look at. We look at the average age of the vehicle. And, you know, the industry standard for fleet vehicles is, you know, the retirement age for a light-duty vehicle or a maintenance vehicle is anywhere between 8 to 12 years that you should be retiring those vehicles, because the cost is prohibitive, the maintenance cost.
Mm-hmm.
And I did an average of just these vehicles that we are looking at for this go-around for 2026. Our average maintenance cost is about $15,000 per vehicle.
Mhm.
And when we originally purchased these vehicles, they were $12,000, $19,000, $20,000.
is that $15,000 inclusive of the people, time, and gas? Or are we saying that
That is-
on average, they're needing parts and pieces?
That is parts, oil changes, tires.
Right, some of that would be regardless of the age, though, and so
is
that's
it
what I'm
labor
looking
too,
for.
What's that?
Is it labor too, because we get billed for labor?
Yes, it's the labor is included in it as well.
Yeah, I would say a vehicle that was from 2007, I mean, that's time to replace. I don't think there's any question that there's
2000.
much more
Right.
life in that vehicle.
We had-
I'm looking at more like, do we have a vehicle that has that type of capacity that would be able to take off of the GSB property and give them? Because we do have quite a number of vehicles, and I have asked previously, what is the demand of those vehicles? How much are we utilizing them? Or, you know, even if they're just sitting there, right, where we have those maintenance costs. So I'm just trying to take a different look and a different approach
Sure.
at it. And that information hasn't yet been given, so I don't know,
Well,
right?
that'd be
So
worthy of a workshop agenda item to review our vehicle fleets and the costs associated with it and efficiencies, if we're gonna move things around. Because we have to factor in too, just, you know, if we have to send a car to the campus from the GSB, what is the time and impact of that as well? And I'm all for streamlining and making sure that we're using our vehicles efficiently, but I think what you're getting at here would require a lot more discussion.
I did send you some information, Ms. Ruddy, about, we have 17 vehicles here at the GSB, and we have a little over 90 people that are using those 17 vehicles. Either they're using them for conferences, they're also using them, we have a white fleet rental service that the schools can use those. They can reserve those vehicles, and then they come and pick them up and then go to whatever conference, or use them for fishing or for the fishing club at the elementary school. So we are utilizing that throughout the district.
Right, yes, and I received that, but what I had responded to is, well, what is the schedule in which all of those vehicles are utilized? Or are we over capacity on those vehicles? While there may be 90 people, they may not be, we're not having conferences every day. And should we look at, well, what would be the cost if we reimburse the mileage for the individuals who use them? Or do we have a policy requirement? For example, many remote businesses say, we're going to say point A is your home office. If we ask you to go anywhere other than point A, then that's where we're going to pay mileage. So when you are, let's say, an individual who works at the school district where you may not be housed at the GSB, but you may go to Rimfire one day and Buddy Taylor the next day, well, do we just say, hey, every time we have you show up at a school, you will only pay you mileage if you move from point A to point B within that day? On the flip side, just as an, advocating and, a devil's advocate, the folks at the GSB utilizing those vehicles many times have salaries over and above the salaries that are average in our schools. But so should we just say that's part of the cost of having that type of role, is that you're going to have to use your own vehicle to go somewhere within the county? I totally understand it's better insurance-wise to have people in our vehicles when they're going out of county and conferences. But those are all just questions. Those are the answers I'm looking for. Because $130,000 for 2 vehicles, right? That's expensive.
So to answer your question, we do not have any vehicles that are assigned to the district's office that have the capacity of these vehicles.
Okay.
We do not have any that we are able to swap and say, here is that, and we'll take, the 2007, or just retire the 2007 Caravan. We do not.
So before we came in here, I was just asking Ms. Moore about all this, and I was hoping, Ms. Mormack, if you could just kind of explain the whole, like the 1.5 mil in the general fund, that we, just again.
These vehicles are all bought out of the capital. There is a separate line item in the 1.5 mil capital funds for buses and vehicles that we do budget for every single year to make sure that we do not get into a position where we have to replace 15 to 20 bike fleet in 1 year, like what happened several years ago with the buses.
Mm-hmm.
Before I started, there was 1 year, I think 2008, where they bought 20 buses to try to catch up, and they all went bad at the same time, and we couldn't afford to replace them all at the same time. To your question, Ms. Ruddy, about the mileage, when we use these white fleet vehicles, the fleet department has a calculation they do monthly as far as charging back the departments and schools for the mileage, the oil, the tires and tubes, the wear and tear. The mileage that would be given to a person using their own vehicle only accounts for miles. It does not account for any wear and tear on their vehicle.
But that's the federal allotment for the mileage considers that, because it's
But
way
the
higher
federal-
than the cost
but
of a
the
gallon
federal-
of gas.
The federal rate for mileage is only adjusted once a year. And I can guarantee you, if we looked at where we started in January and where gas prices are now, it's not even comparable. So
Well,
that's.
in the business world, there are many people who choose to use their car because they feel that it's an actual bonus because of the gas versus, in a typical gas gallon cost versus using a company car. And we've had to make actually policies that say, if you're going to go 50 miles outside of this radius, you must take a company car, or you must even do a rental because of how much we were paying out in mileage. So it became
When you say business, you mean
private sector. So
private
in my personal
sector is much
business,
different than public, though.
it's the same dollar amount
Yeah.
that we gave them.
No,
So-
I mean, as far as cost to the employee, right? So with regard to salaries, it's, when I was in private sector, we always took our own vehicle because we could afford to do so. So in the public sector, we have these vehicles, so technology department is a very good example. They have so many people going to the schools every single day to deliver stuff, to fix stuff, to upgrade things. There were several times when they all had to take their own vehicle, and it was not a great thing for employee morale,
Right,
in my
I'm
opinion.
not saying that we get rid of the entire fleet. I'm trying to be judicious about when we are going to replace. And because, you know, when we pass the GSB, there are cars still sitting there every day that are clearly not being used.
At that
My
time.
argument is that, you know, to look at this many times microscopically, because we've got to do these checks, because when I ask for money for other initiatives, which are smaller than this, I'm told we don't have money, this is, you know, all of these other blockers, but, right, when it's an item where, hey, this is what we've always done, and we've not questioned that as much, it's, well, here's all the reasons we have to have it. So I'm gonna push back, especially in this time of, you know, we've got to be really careful. Several neighboring districts are having layoffs. Several neighboring districts are not able to keep up with the cost of living for their faculty. So, and I understand it comes from a different bucket, but there are also other items that are within that capital bucket that if we think about, hey, what if we have to build a new school that's $200 million, right? All of this we would want to save and be very aware of. So I'm looking for sometimes some flexibility to question this, really dig into it, so that when we have those conversations of we'd like to invest in this area or improve this, we do have that flexibility.
Should we set apart another time to talk about this?
Can we just chalk this to a board member request? Because this is, you know, we're talking about purchase orders here, and this is could be a great conversation to review how we're spending money on vehicles. But right now, I don't know, going into bringing in personal cars and things like that, that's.
I can tell you for the vehicles that we're purchasing this year, the average age of the vehicles are 17 years
Yeah.
for the 11 vehicles. The majority of those are replacing plant services vehicles that are 2004, 2006, 2007. I mean, they're 20, 22 years old, that the maintenance cost on those are far exceeding the cost of the vehicle itself.
Yeah.
So
The only thing I would add, and yeah, those are old cars, you know, maybe if there's a board request, maybe the options for more, like less expensive cars, you know, just, you know, more budget friendly, things like that.
These are
But again,
piggyback,
board request.
they're on the state contract.
Right.
I think, is it state or sheriff's contract?
We don't have the
is what we
luxury
use.
just to go down and shop around different dealerships. We have to go off bids of other, that are already out there.
I understand, but there's
Yeah.
potentially less expensive cars than a Ford, you know, Honda, things like that. So I understand bids completely. So there may be other options that are more affordable.
We have
for
a Ford
future.
fleet, and when you start getting into different makes of vehicles, that you have to have computers to monitor those, and it's just, we have tried to standardize our fleet, so we have a Ford fleet, and it's, when we have, you know, warranty repairs, we can take them to Ford.
Yeah.
It's
Totally
Yeah,
reasonable.
I'm
I
just
think I'm
saying-
just looking for more of an analysis, like, hey, we've looked at these other elements, we've exhausted an alternative. This is why we believe in this, not, you know, essentially come up with some of that research and backing. Because if every question is going to be a separate board meeting topic on big purchases, that's a little crazy. And then that would hold things up, right?
Well, no, I mean, if we have to decide on how we're gonna move forward as a board. We have to
Yeah.
give direction. So this has already been, decision's been made, it's been moved forward. If we want to talk about how we're gonna manage purchasing fleets in the future and give direction in there, that is a board member topic. That's how we have to do it.
Discuss.
Today, we're asked, you know, we're finding out why we bought these vehicles. I think that the justification has been made clear. I, from my position, feel a vehicle that old is time to replace, and we have a need for it. Whether we want to ship vehicles around the district that we already own, that's a possibility, but the logistics and everything, that takes a lot more discussion than on a PO sheet here.
So let's
Yeah.
put it on as a future topic of looking at inventory. Can we do that?
I would say inventory, what's the current demand? Can we compare it to when we're doing intra-county travel? What would be the cost offset of miles, of paying like the mileage versus having the size of the fleet needed to support that? And which roles would we recommend are exceptions? For example, tech, where they're going school to school and they have a bunch of materials, that would not be logistically sound, right? So I think that's what the information we would need to really dive into that.
I'm with you. These are large numbers, as we mentioned, that,
Most of these vehicles, as I mentioned, are replacements for plant services. So it's not a vehicle that could easily
Right.
be
Those are
used,
specialty.
you know, here at the GSB. It's not, we couldn't take a vehicle, the GSB, a Ford Explorer, give it to a plant services tech. That would not make any sense. These are all, you know, they're 250s. It has a tow chassis. They're capable of hauling trailers. They're, you know, hauling parts that are, you know, in the back of a van instead of a sedan. So.
And I think it's important for the public to really understand, like, outside of specialty vehicles like this, all of our vehicles are accessible by our employees. So they may be housed here, but they're not just for the people that are here. It is for anyone that is in need of a vehicle. So when somebody requests a vehicle outside of these specialty vehicles, those vehicles are provided to those employees to be able to be used. So they may be here at the GSB, but it's not like, well, this is only for this group. No, it's accessible by anybody. And we've got, and I think, Mr. Furry, to your point, is the previous direction has been that we aren't putting ourselves in a position that we have this large amounts that we have to purchase, but also that we have vehicles that can be easily used to transport of our students or travel for many of our staff to get into one vehicle and such. So we definitely could put this on and bring back, we'll go back and listen and kind of capture some of the requests that have been made as far as the data to bring forward for discussion.
is there anything else on this purchase order list?
I just wanted to say, you know, half-cent sales tax, been working really well. Like, so for everyone that's listening, that money comes from our taxpayers and for safety. So we have plant services working with CareHawk, the intercom, and for the engagement center, AEDs, like district-wide, and, you know, all the upgrades for the classrooms and ACE testing. So there's a lot of good things happening. The $147,000, like, that went to our students in high school. That could be someone's college tuition, just one or two different people, but we were able to provide that. So good things are happening as well, so thank you for that.
Okay, 7.03, vendor payments. Thank you, Mr. Green. .04, installation of inventory. .05, finance budget amendments. Anything for those?
No?
Okay. 7.06, district financial statements.
I just have one question. So we have general fund 76.9%. When will the remainder of that fill in?
Which one are you?
I'm sorry, on the first page at the bottom, it says general funds, funds received, year to date. Was that the spend?
This is through March, which is 75%.
Oh,
of
that
the
was through
fiscal
March.
year.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha, sorry. I
So
didn't
that
look
should
at
all
the date.
catch up.
Yeah.
The big one you'll see just up from the bottom is the transfer from capital projects of 6.7 million.
Mhm.
That never happens until after year end.
Okay.
Once we start to reconcile the fiscal year, that's when we transfer all the funds. So that's a big piece of what is still missing.
Okay.
But aside from that, we are right on target with where we need to
Okay,
be.
good.
We're all good. We'll move on to academic services. Thank you, Ms. Format.
Thank you.
Ms. Butch. 9.01, Ms. Tammy York, East Coast Technical Assistance Center contract.
Good afternoon, Ms. York.
Good afternoon. I am here today to present the renewal of the ECTAC contract for 26-27. ECTAC stands for East Coast Technical Assistance Center, and they're an offshoot of Seminole County, and they actually provide technical assistance for all of the federal funds, all the titles, Title I, Title II, and then they also provide support for all of the competitive grants that come out. And so we use ECTAC as really a sounding board and an information work through to the federal level. Even though the state is the pass-through, we work with the state, but a lot of the changes that are happening federally, ECTAC works with a couple of organizations there and the Superintendent's Association to really help keep us abreast of all of the changes that are happening federally, how that will impact budgets that are being passed down through the state that will eventually come to our district. We're still waiting right now to find out what our allocations are going to be for 26, 27 for all of our federal entitlements. And anytime there's a federal budget delay, so the October budget would be our next year's budget. So we're a little behind the 8 ball. We finally have those numbers at the state level, so they're working on hashing those out. And I know we're all waiting patiently to get those numbers. So ECTAC will actually hold an application working group on Friday the 15th. I'll send a couple of my staff members to that to really network with other districts. And so they really just provide a lot of support in making sure that we are being good consumers of those dollars, helping us to understand how we can grade those funds to support district initiatives. And then they really provide a lot of legal and technical assistance on issues in regard to anything from charter schools to allocations to private schools, and just help make sure that we are on top of all of the changes and that we are in compliance always with federal guidelines, because Title I every 3 years is the big grant that always gets chosen for audit, and we've had clean audits. I can't even tell you the last time, knock on wood, that we've had an issue, and it's because of the type of support that we get. So it is just under $10,000, but for the level of support that we get, it really is very cost effective for my team. It helps keep us abreast of all of the things that we need to know to stay on top of.
Just so you all know, they have to fix that attachment.
Yeah.
It's not correct.
There.
Yeah, it was there earlier.
Yes.
Oh, I was going
I
to say,
thought I
I
was
pulled it
thinking-
up from board docs.
Yes,
Yes,
I was
it's showing right now instructional materials. I don't know
Yeah.
how that
It
happened.
was there,
but-
though.
But
Oh,
yes,
but it-
we will get it fixed.
Yeah.
Questions?
Do y'all want to wait for that attachment? or-
Yes, please.
If you just send it to Karen and Patty, and then they'll, I think Angela's on there right now. Is it okay if we go to 9.02 and circle back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Ms. Moore.
you.
Yep.
Okay, 9.02, instructional materials adoption. Mr. Reeves, Ms. Alves, and Ms. Butler.
Chair, board members, Ms. Moore,
Good afternoon.
thank you for this opportunity. This is Ms. Diaz. She's our science kid.
Yes.
Alves, our
We know who she is.
K-12 science, and Ms. Butler, who is our K-12 social studies. I'm going to walk you through a little bit where we're at with our adoption. If you go to the next slide, it'll just let you know that this is our timeline we've been on, and I shared at our last meeting that We may have to make some adjustments because we're still waiting to hear from the state on what was on the adoption list. And so therefore, based on that, on the next slide, just bring the boulder there we go. Career technical education, or arts, music and visual, and K-5 health PE, we are not adopting those materials for a number of reasons. Either there was no option on the list, limited items on the list, or our teachers were looking at it as a resource. So the teams will be continuing following our internal procedures for adoption, and this follows our statute 1006.40, where up to 50% of our materials may be purchased not on the state adopted list. So with that, we're going to go through what we are adopting. If you go to the next slide, thank you. So for physical education and health, remember we had health standards change a couple years ago. So this helps us be in compliance with that. And so you'll see our 1 and 2 options for health, and our team is done. And then personal fitness, hope for variation for 9-12. Goodhart, Wilcox, thank you, publishing and e-dynamic learning. For world languages, that team also met. If you'll go to the next slide, please. For MJ beginning Spanish, you see Vista, and then Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3. You see our options for our first option and our second option. I want to let the board know that through the review process for our physical education health, we had 53 committee members going through that process and working together, 22 class teachers, 12 administrators, 4 instructional coaches, 3 media specialists, and 12 parents.
12.
12.
Good.
We had 47 rubrics completed by staff and 4 by parents. To let you know that. And for our world languages, 16 committee members. Remember, there's fewer, it's less teachers, that space, but 16 committee members. But we had 78 rubrics completed by staff for MJ Spanish 1, and then Spanish 1, 2, and 3. Our parent rubrics completed was 11 in those spaces. In addition, our website traffic for all of our programs, we had about 70 either clicks, page views, or visitors looking at the content on the site. And we also, a reminder that we created that flyer that you all asked for to push that out along with our social media. And so with this is what we're presenting to the board for the approval for the adoption before with the next steps.
Can you elaborate more on the CTE and arts? And there just isn't much of a selection, or what's?
No selection for art. They had music, K-5, and our staff wasn't looking for that. They're looking for visual arts. For PE and K-5, there was nothing.
Nothing approved.
Nothing approved. And for CTE, similar in that situation. That doesn't mean we're not going to purchase things. What it means is there's nothing on the adopted list to follow our both statute and our board policy for the adoption process, which we're required to follow. We are allowed to purchase off cycle or off adopted lists for our other items because it's less than 50%.
How is the statute interpreted? Is it 50% for that particular round or overall? Like, is it subject specific or
No.
overall expenditures?
Overall.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and we've, just to let you know, we've moved everything to this point through this process. So it gives us greater latitude when these things happen because everything else has followed the process that we've gone through for. Even our intervention materials wasn't required, but we took it through an adoption process for you to have a say in that process so that we had a better product for our teachers and students.
So did you see an uptick from the previous
Somewhat.
adoption? So some
Somewhat.
of that worked?
Yeah,
Great.
and this area or genre has not had as robust participation from the state. And in their work, they put a lot of effort in the upcoming adoption, which will be coming for you next month to talk about math. But there just hasn't been a lot of energy in the space. And it's important, I know the superintendent and to us as well in teaching and learning, that for like world languages, it's been 2 adoption cycles since we've done anything, and same for PE and stuff. So our teachers have not had resources. It's been a while.
Yeah.
That's the point of that.
Yeah.
And so we felt like it was very important to go through this process to help our
Yeah.
staff.
On the flip side, not having a more restricted list allows us greater flexibility in the CTE area, for example, which,
It does.
every district can kind of choose what their own flavor is. And the arts, that's such a wide, varied area. I could imagine there would be difficulty
It is.
getting
I've
curriculum on
been
that.
working with Davis Publishing for the arts. But we still have to be in compliance,
Yeah.
right? So we have to make sure we follow statute, that the items don't hit the other areas that are, that are prohibited, right? But we just have an internal process to go through with that.
So you're saying it's almost like, because we're being forced to use that 50% of the allocation for these, it further restricts us for maybe choosing additional supplementary material in the other areas?
No, what I'm saying is we still have to follow statute, right? The content has to be complicit with the law, so it can't be violent, it can't be pornographic. There's a number of things that we have to make sure we check off on.
If I can
Yeah.
clarify, you're saying though we have not been able to, we have resources that we can choose from, we have to make sure through our internal process that they still align with what the requirements are or restrictions are from the state board.
Right.
It's more work on our part,
Yeah.
because it hasn't been vetted in that
Yeah.
sense. However, we feel like it's valued.
Yeah.
And it's good work, and our teachers engage in that in a way that I think that's meaningful, and it helps with buy-in with the content as
Yeah.
we move forward.
Great work.
Maybe y'all need to write some curriculum.
Well, we're not far from that. All right, thank you so much. Our next item is, thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Is 9.03. This is FYO contracts, and bringing it for you, we just wrapped up another successful season. A couple highlights. All three concerts were quite successful and robust as we continue to pursue and look for opportunities. We are looking to pursue solo and ensemble MPAs, opportunities for our students. And so that will be going forth this next year. And another piece that we're looking at is looking to hire internally an intern, as it were. It's one of our students currently that is graduating and pursuing a degree in music, and trying to give him an opportunity to gain more knowledge and experience on the backside of all that goes into play for our FYO, and so very excited about that opportunity.
Any comments, questions on?
And how did they do this year on their fundraising portion of the,
So they're continuing to work towards that. One of the things that I'll tell you that they've increased ticket sales over the previous year. And as we're exploring many options, one that will be coming out to our families is in June is we're only charging $15 a year to rent our equipment, which doesn't even cover strings or those kind of things. And so we'll be putting in place something a little bit more, like $80 a year, to help cover the cost of things for our strings, our bows, the equipment rental and usage, which is half the price of what it is.
Are we having, though, if there are students who are in
Still scholarship
need?
Okay. Absolutely.
Do you want to make sure that we,
Absolutely.
And they still came within the budget that what was allocated from the board.
We're close. We're over a bit, but we have our internal funds to cover those costs.
the
Is that-
strings are different than the brass and woodwinds, like, you can actually pass them down from student to student. They don't.
Correct. Some need to be retired, right,
Yeah.
because they've been passed down quite a bit. And we're seeing an increase of students that are going to the cellos and the larger instruments, which are
Oh, when they switch.
and it's much more expensive for those. But they'll just be
Yeah.
purchased through our endowment that we received from that generous
Okay.
gift.
Oh, yeah. So two things. So for the individuals that have the background checks and everything, so for there's one that will be expiring before the others. So do we have a process? I'm assuming yes, but like, so someone is managing that for getting that whenever it, okay, all right, so you're on it, all right. Because I know
So-
all of them
so-
look good.
and
There's
just-
one that will expire.
So they're aware of that, and
Okay.
HR works with them as well
Okay.
to notify them. And just, June 1st, I have an annual meeting with the team to go over our DCF requirements and all our mandatory components for our contract.
Thank you. And then just one more, when you said exceeded a little bit, were you talking about the, like it's, at like the
So-
$13,000? And then that's where the ticket sales will come in for the
No, so
fundraising? Or
we budgeted, last year, we reduced in our cost-saving measure, if you see in there, 4% of the budget, which is $75,775,
Uh-huh.
which is funded by our board graciously. we're exceeding that somewhat, but we've been working to try and keep curtailing how we're using and being very efficient with our
So
time.
anything above that amount?
Is
It's
that
covered through the
like the
internal accounts.
fundraising
Yes, yes.
and, I mean, you said ticket sales are $15, I mean, they.
No, I said ticket sales are up.
Oh, okay, up, okay,
Yes,
yes.
correct.
No,
We increased them 2 years ago.
people will pay, I mean, it's the
It's a great
music,
opportunity
yeah.
to see about our students.
And
Well,
it's-
on the flip side, we don't charge for band.
Well, oh, yeah, no, I mean,
So
for people to
that's-
come watch the shows, I think, putting that
Yes.
funding towards this to
That's
make
what
it
I mean.
happen, yeah.
When the
Yeah.
band has their concerts, we don't charge for that.
What was very nice, so the last concert, last evening, they had every student on stage. There's like 180 kids on that stage. It was packed, it was beautiful, and they did a great job.
Yeah.
So,
I would say even consider charging, people will pay, that's what
Oh,
I
we do-
mean. I
we
mean,
do
just
charge.
Okay,
Yes,
so
we do
they
charge
do
tickets.
charge.
But
Oh,
not
yes.
for band. For orchestra, yes.
Yes.
For
Correct.
band, they do not. That's what I'm saying, there's a discrepancy there.
Oh, you're saying, okay, yeah, I'm
And
talking
how
about
we-
orchestra though. but-
Orchestra,
so-
but we
Right,
charge
but it's.
So then that-
So that is a question as a parent, why do I have to pay to go to my daughter's orchestra, but not my son's trumpet?
Because they have a balance of 13,700.
I think that's part of their fundraising strategy.
Yeah, it's like a,
well, the direction of the board has been all along that we're trying to move towards is being self-sufficient.
Right, the
And that's
difference is
been-
we support the band as part of our curriculum where we
That's
do
correct.
not support the orchestra. So there is a clear difference there in how
Right.
it's being managed.
Yeah.
So with these salary pieces, I see that they have an artistic director, they have an administrator, and then they have some other folks where they are labeled as instructors, but the pay differences, for example, the ensemble director is $50 an hour, but the top ensemble director is 60. So
They have other
what is the
responsibilities.
reason for the?
Other responsibilities.
Okay.
So whether that's in maintaining equipment, social media, there's a number of things that they are responsible for. And I'll remind, about 3 years ago, when I took this over, we actually increased, because they were only getting $35 an hour. And so we built into the budget to try and build up their capacity so that we're getting quality instructors. And we have, in one case, Ms. Burke, she's a certified teacher in this space. So we now have lesson plans that are aligned to the standards of CPOMs. So our students are getting quality instruction in this space, which is allowing us to go to MPAs now and to compete with solos and ensembles.
And just for the record, all these positions are contractor positions. They're not, we're not paying benefits or anything on these
Correct,
instructors.
correct. And their hours are not to exceed. So that is the maximum, but it doesn't mean that's the total to be paid out.
And this is the extent of the entire staff and
With
leadership?
the one
team?
exception I mentioned at the beginning, that we're working through processing an intern. And if you notice, there's one less instructor this year for this intern to take on that space.
Which would not be paid?
Be 25 an hour,
Oh, we paid interns, okay.
contract, yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Thank you so much.
And we'll go back to Ms. York for 9.01.
Thank you.
There it is.
it was there earlier.
Yeah,
I don't know.
just
just
I
kinda-
remember seeing the Seminole logo. I wish we could, you know what I should be doing is, I hate when you write on here instead of annotate directly, but you have that little,
Oh,
did that work on these documents?
it does, but I go back and forth.
Are there specific questions for this contract?
I just, and so this one's new to me. I've not seen or heard of this before, so if you could just maybe baby steps a second, back up. Why do we contract with Seminole on this? Is it that we don't, is normally something like this, wouldn't it be through NEFAC? So is it that they just do this better?
Actually, NEFAC attends the ECTAC. They send their directors to
Okay.
attend. ECTAC has been in place long before I became a Title I director.
Mm.
And actually, as a new Title I director, it was like my saving grace. With all of the changes that were coming through, It's just a great group of professionals that provide technical assistance. They're actually an offshoot of Seminole County, very similar to the way NEFAC has Putnam County as their fiscal management.
Okay.
ECTAC works the same under Seminole County. Seminole is their fiscal agent. But their staff is separate from, they're employed by ECTAC, and they really work with, I think now we have probably 58 districts in the state that are a part of ECTAC. And they work with the board of FAFSA, which is the state group for federal programs. And they really just provide a lot of technical assistance and guidance on, federal legislation, budgeting, compliance.
Specific to these
All
programs.
things federal programs, yes.
And this doesn't cost us anything to
It
be
doesn't.
part of this.
It's part of the administrative costs in
Which
the
is
Title I
great.
budget.
Yeah.
And they actually provide a lot of professional development for my staff that's
Oh,
very
interesting. Okay.
particular to federal programs. They do several quarterly meetings as well as the 2 annual. We do a fall and a spring in conjunction with FAFSA. And then they do they're doing what they call now like working communities. So for larger districts that have larger staff, you may have a team that's just focusing on providing services to your private schools, equitable services. So they have an equitable services, kind of like a subcommittee where you go and do the deep dive in those areas, working through budgets, issues. We network. It really is it's a great professional piece, and we've been working to bring in now, trying to bring in like Mr. Reeves with Title II. We've done a lot of work with CLSD and Stronger Connections, Title IV. Most of those grants are managed. Probably the one group that's not under would be IDEA, but we do a lot of bringing in ESE staff from the state level to help us again look at how we grade those funds to make sure that we're able to support, for instance, Title III. We have over 600 students that are eligible for supports under Title III because they're English language learners, but our grant is like $70,000. It doesn't even pay for one staff member to provide intensive professional development. So we grade funds across Title IV, Title III, Title I to make sure that the needs of those students are met. And so it really, I think, helps us to stretch our dollar and to also make sure that we are always in compliance with all of those pieces.
Great, yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing all that, I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely. Any other questions?
The only thing, the signature for the chair from Seminole, so are they from April? Or they're just backtracking to sign it?
So what they want to do is present it to our board, and then once our board approves it, it gets signed here, we send it back, then they sign it, then they send the fully executed contract back.
Okay, I know, because they already dated it, so I just wanted to. go
That's
without
when it
their
was
signature.
approved
For-
by
on
their
that.
board, so
And then they'll
it
go back
goes
and
back
have
and
them, but
forth.
yeah.
Yes, because both sides need board approval.
And I remember you talking about this in the
Mhm.
past. I don't know if it was a meeting, but really good things about it. So.
Yeah, it's probably the one thing that I would say, even in the toughest of times, it would be the one thing I would not cut out of our budget. I would give up everything else before I would give this up, because it's such a lifeline to networking and compliance for federal programs.
Thank you.
And I would imagine if we're out of compliance, that adds a lot of other layers of problems
Now,
for.
Mr. Furry, I would say, we are not out of compliance in any of our federal programs, so, but yes,
But
it
that,
can
but that's,
have-
that's,
it definitely
that's
can have
part of the reason
fiscal
why we're
impact.
not, is what my point was.
Absolutely.
Exactly, so
Absolutely.
that's the real value here, is
Mhm.
that, because once you are out of compliance, what are some of the ramifications that you may face?
Oh, there are a lot of fiscal penalties, and depending, there are districts that have jeopardized a lot of their federal dollars,
Mhm.
because once an issue's found, they'll come in and do the
And then
deep
it
dive.
affects the student,
Absolutely.
and that's,
Absolutely.
And did
Yeah.
you say the cost of this was about 10,000?
It's just under $10,000, and it's actually based on the number of students within the district that are eligible for free and reduced lunch.
Gotcha.
So it's on a sliding scale depending on.
Yeah.
and we usually fall in that 5,000 to 8,000, 9,000 range, which is I think it's 9680.
So
is
what
the
I
exact
was trying to
amount.
put into perspective is the investment of 10,000, how much money is that protecting potentially if we get it wrong?
Gosh, I couldn't even, we probably manage right now through my department over $7 million.
See, so I mean,
So
I
it's
just
a-
wanted
yeah.
to see, because when you see 10,000 helps us stay in compliance to make sure we receive 7 million.
Yes.
It makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that.
Great, thank you, Ms.
All right,
Dorr.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to human resources consent, Mr. Ellett, Mr. Walker. 1.01.
Good afternoon, Board, Chair, Superintendent Moore. Before you today, we're going to go ahead and get things started with our personnel items. That is our live document as we move forward to
On this behavior specialist, previously we had brought on a behavior analyst role.
Oh.
Okay, so if you're looking at the two, the behavior analyst is higher on the pay scale and duties than the behavior specialist?
So are we talking
vice
about
versa.
10.02?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, you're good. For 10.02, I will ask Dr. O'Brien to come up and join me so we can kind of get a nice understanding as it relates to how this
I don't
role
want to
interacts
jump.
with
Did
others.
anybody have a
Okay, and yeah, let's just finish
10.01?
this
I
one. Any
apologize.
questions on 10.01?
I don't have any.
Okay.
I just think it's a typo, 2025, is that FTC Camellia? Is it?
Correct. We'll get
Okay,
that
I just
adjusted.
wanted
No,
to,
thank
because
you.
you know, sometimes there's like,
No, that one is a typo, and we'll get that adjusted for the May 19th one.
yeah, thank you.
All right, 10.02, behavior specialist job description.
All right, so this job description is being brought to you as we're looking at the job description. We noticed in the qualifications that even though it is a certified position on the instructional salary schedule, it was not reflected in the qualifications. So we wanted to make sure we corrected that error. And while we also were bringing it forward to you, we took it as an opportunity to make some other minor adjustments as it relates to correlating with what the duties actually are for this position.
So this position, it seems like it's evolved to be more of like the curriculum specialist positions, but related to behavior. Is that kind of the gist? Because I see a lot of, providing recommendations, training other educators on strategies, needs.
It was really just updated to reflect the duties that they're actually engaging in right now. So our behavior specialists work within the ESE department, but they are assigned to our schools based on need. So however many, behavior intervention plans or particular self-contained classrooms that might need the support of the behavior specialist. So I would say that they are much more of a school-based position than a curriculum specialist would be.
But they flex throughout those schools?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I mean, the district curriculum specialists are supposed to be mostly school-based, that they're flexing throughout,
Yeah.
for
Yep.
support.
This is, I would liken it more to a literacy coach, but a school-based literacy coach for behavior.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many of these do we currently have on staff? And we're
Right now in our IDEA budget, we have 8. We currently have 6. You're welcome to come up, Dr. Holliday. We currently have 6, and we have had some vacancies that, if you remember, we're going to flip 2 of these allocations to the behavior analyst role. So we've kept those vacant.
Okay, and so that's the question. Are we keeping them vacant and going to hire? Or I thought if we were flipping them, then it would fall off of the vacancy and say, nope, that's what we have. Because the analyst role
It
is a
would drop.
higher
It's a higher
salary
pay.
level.
Mhm.
Right, so what I want to be careful of is, how are we, in my mind, when we approved that flip, it was, well, now we're shrinking the specialist
correct.
role.
That's what-
And that's
yep.
what,
That's
so
what
it
it
is
is.
not necessarily a vacancy, we've just shrunk that workforce.
I just meant that we actually have a vacancy in those roles
Okay.
because those folks have vacated the position.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does the size of the staff, though, ever adjust based upon our population needs? So when we say, well, we have 6 now, that's because of our current numbers, or what does that what do you look for in the right
Formula?
Yeah.
Well, with us adding the behavior analyst position, we do think that that's going to provide a different layer of support for some of our students with the most significant behavioral needs. So who will get the behavior analyst support will be dependent upon the student population. And then those behavior specialists will support from there.
But to more specifically answer your question, ideally, yes, the number of these individuals should increase based on the needs that we have presented within our organization. However, historically, we've never had more than one per school. And so when you look at currently the workload of these individuals, they may be carrying 50 students, on their case, which is a very high load. So yes, but we have not gotten the allocation we have not adjusted that formula to be able to say, for every this, we will get one of these as we have for our teachers or our paraprofessionals that are in our cluster program.
And
so
that's what I'm
ideally,
trying
yes,
to
but
get-
it has not.
I'm trying to get an idea of, like, essentially, where is this going, right? And then especially when I see the amount of coaching and, peer support outside of the services provided to students, that's going to be a higher demand on their time as well.
So like where we're going with this is really to have this job description reflect their day-to-day work. I think if you were sitting across from a behavior specialist right now, they would look at this and say, yes, this more so align with what it is that I am doing every day. This is not we're not asking or wanting to increase allocations. Right now, we want the job description to better reflect what they are doing. So as we are hiring individuals, we're hiring them and they have a clear understanding of what the expectations are.
Okay. Can you tell me why number 9 was stricken then? Assist ESC and general ed teachers in developing strategies to work with students in general ed classrooms. What I'm trying to, I'm having difficulty kind of relegating the fact that, well, they're coaching teachers. When you coach somebody, you're going to provide strategies. But now we're saying in this one, we're not going to be supporting ESC and general ed teachers.
It was just reflected better in number 4.
Okay, so you're swapping out the
Yeah.
language. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish we could have more of them because it's such a great.
And really what we'd like to
resource.
do here is align our ESC support better with the support that we're providing through the MTSS process. So starting to build a continuum where that behavior interventionist is really handing off and has support from the behavior specialist. Right now, their duties are kind of running alongside each other, and we're working to better align them.
Yeah, I'm trying to just get a visual in my head of how this works because, you have now the teacher, a para, an inclusion teacher, the specialist, the analyst. I'd like to know more about how this is actually, this relationship, how is this working in the real world, right, out in the classrooms?
Yeah.
So,
Well, the degree of it, so like the para, the para is very specific, but these are individuals with that certification. So based off the need, I would imagine, of the student or students.
Yeah, so the behavior specialist is a part of the IEP team. They right now are when they receive a consent for an FBA, they're carrying that out. They're teaching the para and or teacher how to collect data according to that because they can't be the person in direct observation for the entirety to collect it. They're analyzing that data, writing the FBA, and then writing the behavior intervention plan, and then coaching on those strategies that are used in the behavior intervention plan within the classroom.
Mm-hmm. What kind of outcomes have we seen when we've implemented this with a set of teachers versus maybe a set of teachers that have not had maybe as much support from a specialist or an analyst? How are we ensuring that this investment in this additional, layer of supports is heading in the outcomes direction we'd like to see?
I think that's a great question. When we look at IEP reviews and we have students that have high-level behavior and we're seeing a decrease in disciplinary challenges or a decrease in those outward behaviors that may be related to their disability because we're replacing those behaviors, those are the things that when I ask my behavior team, how do you know if what you're doing is working? We see a decrease, and part of the behavior plan really does show a full graphing of those specific behaviors we're targeting, those specific interventions that we're providing, and the decrease. And when we don't see the decrease, the behavior specialist comes back to the table with some new strategies for them to try.
Do you have that data in aggregate? Like, for example, hey, here's maybe the behavior challenges that we're having in classes that have not had the behavior specialist maybe coaching, interacting with those teachers versus those that do? So I know you're talking about on an individual goal level.
And it is very individual goal level.
Because really a behavior specialist would not be working with a teacher unless there is a student in that classroom that requires that level of support. So to your question, if a teacher is not receiving that level of support, that teacher may be receiving some support through the behavior interventionist. And so that may look from a lens of like overall tier 1 classroom management, some tier 2 services or such, but any teacher that is working directly with the behavior specialist, that teacher has a student in their classroom that requires that level of support from their IEP.
So what's the, are these equitable in terms of salary scale, the specialist versus the interventionist?
They're on the same.
Yeah, they're
They're
the
the
They're
same.
academic.
Okay.
Their responsibilities are different, and their certification.
Yes.
But we're not saying that it's a career pathway and that one is higher, because that essentially was my question, is if we're layering these in and if these are at maybe a higher salary scale, well, what is the different outcomes that we may expect versus the interventionist? But you're saying, no, this may be for maybe some more challenging. They're just
Yes.
for a higher tier that maybe those interventionists don't see as frequently and don't have that experience.
Well, or
Okay.
wouldn't yet, because the behavior intervention would be providing the support up to that point where
Okay.
we're thinking we might need an FBA.
So this is like this is a stopgap or support instead of necessarily going to the EBD program.
Well, a
They
student
would
could
be
be still.
supporting the
Yeah.
EBD
Yeah,
program
Oh,
in this
okay.
role. And a lot of the work that our behavior specialists do, you might see in another district that it's a school psychologist writing FBAs, doing behavior intervention plans. It might be a different role.
Right.
But it's just for here, for us,
Okay.
it's the behavior specialist role.
And the behaviors, like the behavior interventionist does have more like local training and behavior, where our behavior specialists are either individuals who are currently possess some type of behavior certification or in the process of getting that. So they have more specific training in the area of behaviors that are typically more so connected to a disability versus, right now, I just don't want to do this, or,
Okay.
And
Thank
these
you.
credentials, so for the public to know, like, these are not easy credentials to achieve. This certification, and I mentioned it, I guess it was last year when, it is an extremely difficult and challenging and much needed credential, and, so having this, so it's something definitely to think about. So, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to 10.03.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, for this item, I'm going to go ahead and call Mr. Ryan Giesing, so we can go ahead and start looking through some of the technology job descriptions that we have before you. And we'll go ahead and get started. I believe the first one is website content manager.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is this just just a red line, the whole thing?
It's basically an entire rewrite. This job, we've looked at and started kind of going down the route of reevaluating what those were.
we've had some shifts in how we manage a website. So the perspective that was taken on this is realizing that it's a much more technical role within the organization. The last time the job was updated, it was pushed more in the direction of kind of like a marketing, web management kind of thing for some content and those things. So this is kind of a redo of that to kind of get it better in line with how we have this set up and funded. So if you go through, really, it is a completely rewrite, but I do want to make the point that this is on the same job pay lane. So there's no change with that, but it is significantly different. We did have a team get together to kind of evaluate what the actual needs of this position are within the organization. I will note that when this was originally written, when we called it website content manager, we did not have specific individuals from the schools that were designated, nor through the departments. So now we have it set up where there's a person from each individual school, there's a person that's dedicated to the content piece, there's a person dedicated to the calendars. The calendars now are all directly integrated, so when we look at what that looks like, it's a very technical role. It is not more of a clerical or a journalist type of background. So that's the intent. And like I said, we did get a group of folks together to kind of go through this, and that's through multiple revisions, we ended up significantly changing it. That's why you're seeing such a large amount. But we felt that we still wanted to bring this as a revision rather than a new job description.
Not a new role, you're just reinventing it. Do you, since our websites now more and more are including AI or, something in order to make our content easier to retrieve information from our families, where does that sit within this role, or is that separate because it really requires, training, modeling by other people?
Well, we have multiple people trying or working on that at the moment. That would be a point piece for this individual to kind of pull those pieces together.
So I'm thinking, should that be captured in the job description somewhere? I don't think I readily saw that. But maybe it's defined in another area.
The
That's what I'm trying to
expectation of the
understand.
job, those things would definitely be covered. It's really any of the integration stuff. So when you start seeing what's on the website now, that's set up and integrated with multiple systems, it's really ran as more of a database.
But that's what I think it would be nice to highlight that, since that would be an area we would want this individual to spearhead and bring some ideas of, or experiences of best practices in developing that type of technology.
Is there, being that AI is just moving so quickly, is there a clear certification, or, like we were talking the other day, Microsoft certified, this type certified, does AI have those type of certificates?
There's a lot of certificates, I'll put it that way. There's a lot of different certifications. We didn't really tie that into this one. We did have conversations about it, but coming at it from a perspective of really trying to make it relevant to what the job expectation was, we weren't exactly sure where to place that. So it's part of our continuing conversation. I think as we get someone appropriate into this role, it's one of those things that will kind of continue to evolve. Again, this is kind of shifting significantly from where this role originally started.
Sure was.
We also see this person being able to help with our development team as part of kind of the forward-facing, particularly around what is forward-facing to our parents as students.
So do you feel, though, that, as Ms. Ruddy was saying, that this encapsulates that, the AI portion of it into this job description, that the expectation would be that would be something that would be expected of them also?
With the team that this particular job description, that the person in this role would be working closely with, are using AI extensively.
It seems like AI is just kind of integrated now into, it's not like it's standalone. It's like
in workplace, it's all integrated in, so it's almost become like a component of, not like an ancillary technology for the most part, how we're using
Right.
it.
And a lot of our teams are learning how to use it. For something like this, it would be great if we had somebody who had some skills in implementing it and could help us maybe, get exponentially
So
better
what
in
I'm
that
hearing
area.
is we would like to see something with the knowledge and skills related directly to that.
Yes, like ensuring, since this is website, I'm just saying, okay, at the minimum, because AI is so new, they're going to grow, just like your whole other team is going to grow in that area. But do they have some experience in
Yeah, I think
leveraging AI within a
that's a great
website?
idea. I would be hesitant to say that we want some sort of certification piece.
No. I mean,
But absolutely, we can.
Most of the AI certifications are
that
people making
makes-
courses in their
It
basement.
it almost seems like right now, everything is connected to AI on
No
its
matter
own.
what your-
Right, so it's almost like if
your-
you're not, if
yeah.
you're not engaging in some sort of AI with in a technical world like this, then you're really not in the game to begin with, it seems like.
And
I
it
mean,
could be just a bonus if you know how they have, hey, these are the requirements, but bonus, like, this is the person who we're gonna give the
And
offer
you'll
to if
see
they've built
Like
some of this.
Knowledge,
Or
skills, and
something.
abilities, that's where my head would go. This would be,
Yes.
kind of like the same thing, knowledge of HTML5, CSS3, and coding.
Mm-hmm.
So, those
Maybe
are
they're-
things that you need to make sure that person has at least some background knowledge, really to be successful with that. So we can place that in there. We'll definitely look at that and get that in there as one of the like-to-haves.
Yeah.
And to another perspective, if the one that's seeking the position, because if they are if they're more proficient in AI, they might say, oh, well, this organization obviously identifies that is something that values. So that could be just a general understanding or some sort of a language to that. I think that's a good addition.
Yes.
Okay.
And
We
did
can
you
make that
say,
happen.
is there someone that has this role right now, or they're not
It's currently
working?
vacant.
Oh, okay, so that's why, okay. So I was like, if someone does, do they know what their new role will be? Because it's pretty much different now.
No, it is
but,
currently vacant.
Okay, thank you.
So good time.
All right, 10.04, technology support specialist.
So this one, you're changing the salary lane on this one.
So there's two revisions that we're bringing to you, and this is to consolidate and create kind of a service technician opportunity for our folks to kind of move within the organization. Currently, we have a network service technician. That's kind of our entry level. We bring folks in. A lot of times, these folks are coming in with not a lot of experience. The most success we've kind of had with these are some of our staff that come in either from, high school. We do internships with our high school students in the summer. So oftentimes we have opportunities for those. Also we work pretty closely with Daytona State. We have students from UCF. We have students from University of Florida. We've had students work with us from University of North Florida. So generally speaking, most of these are local folks that are coming back for the summer to do some of these internships. So that's really where our entry level is. What the next piece of it would be what we currently call our technology support specialist would become our technology support specialist 2. So this is trying to make kind of an alignment as we move along so that there's some job progression. So, I've shared a bit before that the reasoning behind wanting to move in this direction is talking with staff and a lot of them feeling like there's not a good path that's set up, especially when we're, bringing folks in kind of earlier in their career. There's not a lot of opportunities to push along, and that was a lot of feedback we got. And we have had 4 or 5 staff leave this year, and in talking through, a lot of it had to do with not knowing like what my next step is from, hey, I gotta wait until somebody kind of leaves and those types of things, where we didn't have these set up in progression. The other piece was pay. That's the intention of kind of trying to shift these. By no means are we trying to push we'll say beyond what the competitive market is. These are small incremental steps that have been proposed for both of these. If you look at, let's see. If you look at with our level 1, so we're just, if you don't mind, I'll just do level 1, level 2. Level 1 will actually increase $1.62 an hour. That equates to, currently have 3 people in that role. That equates to roughly $10,000. Our level 2 is roughly 85 cents additional per hour. We have 13 employees in that role, which roughly equates to $23,000. We're going to talk about our level 3, which is being brought to you as a new job description, but it is another item. But that is $2.66 an hour for, and we're proposing 2 employees that would be from internal slots. So these would potentially be, when we post this, it would be internal only. And we anticipate those employees that would be successful candidates for that would come from our level 2 employees. So the difference in that, the 266, is roughly where those employees would land on level 2 to go to level 3, which is for both of those employees is an impact of about $11,000. So around a little over $5,000 difference between
Annually.
those, right? So that kind of puts us in a situation where we have some more opportunity to kind of move folks up as needed.
So you're saying then, let me just make sure I understand your idea for your whole org structure. So you're saying the network service technician would be gone, and that you would have a technical support
Yep.
specialist 1, 2, and 3, and
Yes.
then what are the titles of the people that are above the 3?
Coordinator.
They're called technology coordinators.
Yeah.
And then there's you?
We have a district coordinator.
Okay, so you have
And
a
then me.
district coordinator, you, 3 tech
2.
coordinators?
2.
2 tech coordinators, and 1, 13, and 4 of these additional roles that you're, not additional, that you
Yes.
currently have, but you're looking to break out in the main.
18 total, yes.
Okay, now.
And then they also, that group also oversees our intern
Okay.
program.
What I want to just get some insight on is these dollar amounts that you're proposing, right, and the impact to the budget, that's based upon current staffing. Are you foreseeing in the next 5 years a need to expand that staff at all? Where
I mean,
the-
it's
the
hard to
impact would be
say
larger
for
than what's
expanding it for
projected?
the next 5 years, but part of what we're looking at, and I think this is part of our whole organization is struggling with this, is, how do we compensate the folks that we have? Like, and so obviously not having the opportunity to just increase, looking at how to build those folks that we have. I think you realize, like, every single time, this is no surprise, but every single time that we lose any employee, that's a significant cost to our district, not just from the standpoint of dollars and cents, but time. So it takes a lot of time to bring folks on board. I think, looking at how we support schools and classrooms is oftentimes very different from candidates that we bring in from other school districts, just from what our expectations, as well as our program of service, they're not necessarily used to. So getting those folks up to speed and productive within our organization takes quite a bit of effort and time.
Right. And so your tech support specialists, are those school-based? Those are the ones that,
Yes.
that's that level? Okay. And then the 2 and 3, they would also be school-based? They're just
Okay,
moving
so
up?
the new tech support specialist 1 is kind of our bring folks in. So we have three of those.
So they're
so the
not,
bulk-
those are not school-based? You're
They
training
are.
them up?
They're
Okay,
being
but
trained
they-
up, but they are primarily, yes, they're in the schools.
They might move between a couple of schools?
Correct, depending
Okay.
on what needs are at
And they're
individual
probably
schools.
more the hardware,
Correct.
hey, did you
They're-
turn it off and on thing before, right?
Yeah.
And before they get to the instructional application. So
Correct.
as you go up in this ladder, you're saying they're becoming more and more adept at recommending and evaluating materials or software
that's the
applications
intention.
for instruction, and then potentially supporting, or what your two coordinators do, direct instructional support with technology. So,
Between them, they kind of cover everything from the perspective of our classrooms.
okay, so I just have a statement that I understand with your field of people, you are competing with the business world workforce, right? But what I need to make sure that we have more compelling reasons to change salary lanes other than, well, they need to see a career progression. Because if we look at the majority of the positions we have within our faculty and staff, right, we have, most of them would be like, oh, if you're a lead teacher, that's a stipend of $250, right? So other than that, academic coach, well, there's one of those per school and it may be grant-based. We have one district curriculum specialist per subject area. You have one principal or assistant principal, right? So what I want to make sure is we are meeting that need, but justifying it based upon what our organization is, because we don't want to also then essentially create an uprising or demand, hey, I want to see a level 1, 2, 3 teacher, right? How do we make sure we don't get sticky into that? So I hear you and I understand that. I would love to hear your response into that in terms of the operational and outcomes benefit by making these tiered approaches, as opposed to, I want to retain these people, because we have that problem with teachers, we have that problem with paras, we have that problem with custodians.
Well, I think it's twofold when we started looking at this. So we did do some research. We dug into all of the districts that are in our immediate area, from really Nassau down Volusia, Seminole County, Lake County, Putnam County. We kind of excluded Orange County, but we did take some time to look at what their entry-level technicians were. We were very far off pace from where those folks are, short of Putnam, and then Volusia has a program that kind of takes their high school students and does
almost like
a
an internship.
formal, yes.
Okay.
So that's why you've seen where the placement is for that technology support specialist 1. That is a little bit more than where we landed with the tech support specialist 2. So we looked at where that was at. This change kind of puts us at the bottom of the midway point. I don't want to say we're at the bottom, but there's definitely a lot towards the top. And if you know, just because we really just looked at education, we did look at a couple from we looked at Flagler County, and
City,
the
the
municipalities
county.
within Flagler County. We didn't look at municipalities outside. It was directed at those job descriptions, and we really looked at those first 5 steps of what we're really looking at competing with. So again, it's around midpoint, but just a bit below, which, we feel like that gets us to be able to stay somewhat competitive if we're talking about bringing folks in.
But I think Ms. Ruddy, into what she's wanting us to really highlight, and I think that she explained it extremely well, it's really based on where we started before we looked at salaries, of really what are the expectations and what is it that we need for these individuals to be able to do as they move through. And it was very difficult for us to have it all wrapped into one position. So we began to just expand that out to say, what does this look like when someone is coming in at the 1? What are the expectations of what we want them to bring in, as well as what are we wanting them to do, and how do we just expand that throughout? And then after we looked at that to say, yes, we got to bring this apart some, then we started to really look at, well, what does that look like to ensure that if we're going to pull this apart, what does that look like related to the salaries? But when these individuals come in, I mean, they are starting at the hardware, but then it's going all the way to, the support that they're providing to our teachers, our instructional base, the management of that, the safety and security of the devices and such that our students are having and that we are utilizing. So it really was about how do we layer that out from the expectations that we need these individuals to be doing, and then we looked at, well, what does this look like to then compensate.
And we want people to stay and to feel like that they have a future career here, that it's not just, okay, this is it, now I'm gonna go somewhere else, so.
Well, to LaShakia's point, and thank you for bringing that up, because you get up here and sometimes stuff slips, and I think I kind of misinterpreted kind of where you were
No,
coming
but I
at
loved
from
hearing that you did a salary analysis.
Yeah.
That would have been my second question, so, yes. Yes, no, and that makes sense. You're saying we've become more mature in our utilization of technology, much more so than many other districts. And so therefore, the demand of the skills on our technology support people are going to be greater, that go beyond the repair and maintenance into
we found
supporting
that having a
instruction.
setup that was so broad in perspective, so we tried to kind of level up that level one, and that's why we looked at trying to bring this into a level one, level two, right? We've got that built within our facilities department, and I know
Business
Mr.
side, too.
Bush had brought some of that, as well as Mr. Freeman had brought that as an option. And so I got to chatting with them a little bit about how they did that and how they laid that out. So if you were to look at these job descriptions lined out, you'll see that they build upon themselves. One of the other things that we were talking about is how do we build from within? I'm a big proponent of, continue to move folks up and give them opportunities. I love being in a position to promote somebody from within. We're always going to go for the best person to fit the job, but it is great when you can sit down and interview folks, and the folks that you have an expectation for them, they are in the mix and they are great candidates.
And that comes from us giving them these experiences that we have to make sure that we're progressing them through the experience.
Some of the feedback from the team that I had worked on this with me was how do we then value the experience that we're putting in place with these. So you'll see a progression in here that values experience within our organization. So if you see this particular one's 2 years of experience as a tech specialist, so that means 2 years experience within Flagler is equivalent to 4 years of an external. So if we're bringing somebody in from external, we're saying that we're training those folks up to the point where that is a value of roughly someone else coming from the outside. So those were some of the things that we got feedback from in trying to talk through those. So I know these things some of this is a little bit different, but coming at it from this approach, I just really felt like, considering where we're at from a budget perspective and how all of these lay out, we really have to look at how do we recruit and retain the best people that we possibly can, especially when we're looking at having to make cuts. This gives an opportunity to kind of keep those folks that are your A players.
So-
I jokingly say this all the time, and at some point this just can't be true, but it's often said 80% of the work is done by 20%, and you guys know that you have those standouts within the organization, and I can tell you there's been a few this year that hurt seeing those folks leave, not just from a standpoint of that they left the organization, but a lot of it being that we didn't have opportunities for them, and I feel like those folks are going to have great careers.
And they were hard
And they were
workers.
folks that went to Flagler schools. They went through our internship programs. They became techs, our entry-level tech, became support technicians, and then when you get offered jobs and things that are so significant that I cannot blame anyone for taking, that it makes you kind of think that, okay, so we have this gap of how do we keep those folks engaged and excited and working towards something, because I felt like the conversations, that's one of the things that came out of it.
And-
So, can we also roll into the 10.05?
I think he's
Oh.
already.
Yeah, I think
he
we
had
kind
addressed
of covered it. It's kind of the next piece of it. This is the
is the
senior
newer-
level
Okay.
technician.
And I have a few,
Yep.
are we,
Go ahead.
are we gonna,
So we're
do you want to
doing
just
both.
do all of them and then do
Nope, go ahead.
questions, or?
He's done all, we've said all we need to say.
Okay.
We're ready for your questions.
All right,
Yes.
I know, I was like, okay, anything else? No. So one, I do want to commend you on like spearheading for your team. You know, like not every leader does that, to see how you can, you know, make them better and want to stay. So nice work, and thank you for following up with all of my questions, and you really answered a lot, and you provided a lot more detail, so thank you. And so with that, I just wanted to say, so we have the technology support specialist position that currently is not filled right now, and that is $52,000. So that you are going to be utilizing to, for those raises, for those different salary pay scales, so.
For the realignment.
Yes, so smart
Or
work.
cost
So, yeah,
neutral.
so there's no money, so funding-wise, so thank you. That was very smart. I can tell that you really thought this through for a while with all the data that you sent me, so I appreciate that. And then I guess, so that's for those three. So the one position, technology support specialist, that is the $52,000, it's currently vacant. Is that going to stay vacant then? Because then that funding would be allocated to assist with the
Yes.
salary, so that one will be just kind of gone.
Yes.
All right, so, and the only thing, so I appreciate Ms. Ruddy said, you know, you did your own research on salary, and the only thing, I mean, I love this, it's just, you know, last year I brought up something similar, you know, for the nursing, you know, the same thing, different districts and salaries, and if you pull up 7 districts that are similar in student population, employee, faculty, staff population, and then positions. So you were right on, and you did the research. I just wish that as a district, and I think that's where I was getting at with the salary matrix, I feel, because we have, you know, the tech team, they're extremely important, and you're fighting for them. We have our, you know, health department, you know, the nurses. So I'm just trying to think of a way that it could be streamlined with all roles, because all of them are important, but I do appreciate and I like what you did with that vacant role. There's no extra money coming out to fulfill those, and it will help, you know, with your team and, you know, getting them up. But the salary that you did, I think, just we have all different positions that I feel it would make sense to do for all across the board. And again, I brought it up, and that's where I was coming up.
I think
yeah.
the difference is, though, we did have, for the district RN, we did give a salary increase. The difference is, as a school nurse, you don't have multiple school nurses doing different tasks. There's one school nurse.
Just
right?
an example, though, like, but if you look at the salary, like he did his research, you do that for a lot of our roles. Nursing, that's one. You look at 7 different districts, we're going to be falling below. So it would make sense to, you know, so I just want us to think about that with every role. It just makes more sense, but I do like what you did. You really thought through with those positions of not utilizing extra funds. It just kind of fills it in, the gap. So, and thank you for all the details, so.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you for doing work on this.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Walker.
Moving on to operational services, 12.01, 5-year working plan with Mr. Bush.
Mr. Bush, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Board Superintendent. Okay, I'm here to present the 5-year work plan submitted to the Department of DOE annually. This plan lists the capital outlay projects in order to maintain the educational and ancillary plant facilities. The district facility work plan is a tool used by DOE for forecasting. The work plan is available by DOE October 1st. This year, it was not available until late March of 2026. So this is the 25-26 work plan that I'm presenting in front of you right now.
And you've already approved the budget and all of that, so now this is the official plan.
Correct. The 5-year capital you approved back in July of '25. The 5-year, I just said that, the 5-year work plan is the district's planning forecasting tool for capital projects, including maintenance, remodeling, renovation, and construction according to SREF, which is state requirements for educational facilities. Are there any questions?
No, we'll move on to 12.02, the Florida inventory.
I bring before you the annual inventory of schoolhouse, which is fish report that must be verified each year. This fish report accounts for all the district's facilities, including buildings, classroom, office, ancillary properties, etc. DOE validated our fish December of 2025. And in between, they do that every 5 years. In between that, the plant services, we go around and we do spot checking. Whenever we do projects, we also have to update fish. The two big things from last year to this year would be the annex portables that's out there in the back. We had those removed, and most of them went to and we added the engagement center because most of those staffing and students went to the engagement center. So those are the two big differences in the fish from last year to this year. Are there any questions?
All right, 12.03. So board, I wanted to leave this on here, just, we don't have to spend a lot of time, but just for awareness and any questions. But we were hoping to hear from the other municipalities to also be a part of this, and that has not, they have not come back yet. Everyone is not responding.
And I can talk a little bit about that. Can you put the PowerPoint slide up, please? So this is a Carver Center parking lot that we are working with the Carver Foundation and the entities that belong to that ILA are Flagler County, Flagler Schools, the Sheriff, City of Bunnell, and the Carver Foundation. That little bit of background about the building there. The building is owned by the county. The parking lot is owned by the Housing Authority. But it goes right up to where the road is, right in front of the building. So anything that is affected in the parking lot gets carried into the building. And the building, we have a couple pictures of what it looks like when it rains. And we would like to have, our first step would be to do an engineer proposal to figure out what we need to do to this area. And it could be many number of options. It could be partial paving, it could be full paving, it could be compact millings or crushed base of stone, or even a permeable pavers that we could put in there. But we're not going to know until we get an engineer study. The engineer study is about $7,900. We have asked each one of the members of the ILA to pitch in their portion to pay for that, which would be $1,580. We are waiting on responses back from a couple of those entities. The foundation is already in. I'm not going to speak for the board, but I think it would be good for the board to participate and just to do the study so we know what it would take to improve our access to the parking lot.
Why, so the Flagler County Housing Authority, they're not doing a study because their facility's not being impacted because they only own the parking lot?
They own that property and then they lease it to the City of Bunnell. The City of Bunnell leases that land where that parking lot is and where the fields are, and they have a lease on that till, I think, 2044. So they lease the property to the City of Bunnell.
Can we speak with Sven a moment? Sven? Isn't there something, and I guess I'm just kind of
And
equating.
Delaney is on.
Okay.
Like if you have a question for him, yeah, he is
I think
on.
this might be for Sven though. I'm just thinking like, if I rent an apartment and the homeowner refuses to fix something, in certain cases, I have the right to fix it and then send the bill to the homeowner. In this case, if the parking lot is providing hazard, ultimately, if, you know, the HUD and the city of Benel don't fix it, what would we, you know, obviously, we'd rather do a collaboration. But let's say it gets to the point where we go, well, we'll fix it. Is there a situation here, are you seeing a potential where we'd be able to say, well, we have to pursue giving them a bill for it because at this point it was negligent?
So you're asking about a potential of an equitable claim that you could make, that the city would benefit, you know, from shared property? Yes, there are equitable claims that are possible in situations where another party derives a benefit from work or, you know, some kind of service that we contract to have performed.
What kind of proof would you need to have? Because like a parking lot, people might say, well, you know, unless it's a hazard when people are walking in it, otherwise are we saying, well, the bigger benefit is to our facility because it's getting mud and everything in it. Like what would we need to, what would be the evidence of proof that they're also benefiting from that improvement?
Generally, you would have to show that there was some kind of enrichment that they, you know, that they derived a benefit, and the benefit that they derived was the result of the actions that we took. Yeah, and so a lot of times it just comes down to receipts, you know, that type of thing.
Is the parking lot only for the Carvers? It's not. They also access those fields there, right?
They
by
do.
Parking. Okay.
It does. It benefits
So it
the
would
city of
benefit the
Benel.
city.
Yeah.
So, from my experience in generality, you know, it's going to come down to the lease and what they are leasing, what the lease says. It says, okay, HUD is supposed to provide X, and for this exchange in money, right? Is this one of those leases where it's like they lease it for $1?
Yes.
So there's no real money. So I think the language in the lease is important because unless it said, hey, you lease it for $1, but you maintain it, you know, I'll leave that to the lawyers, right? But I mean, saying that there's certain, each side, it's like, you know, some people when they rent a house, the air conditioner is covered if it goes out, landlord fixes it. Well, if you go to a commercial lease, that's not always the case. Sometimes that tenant has to pay so it's all a matter of the language of the lease. What I'm more interested in is, you know, if we're going to do this study, because I remember this conversation's been going on for a while to do this, and there's no doubt there's a need here. And I remember one of the biggest problems, we just resurfaced the floor in there, and next thing you know, everybody's tracking sand and sandpapering all the things we just did. But then ultimately, who are we seeking to pay for this? Is this something that we're looking at after we get this study? And it says, hey, this project's going to be X amount, and this is how it would be done. Who's paying for it? Are we looking to HUD to do it? Is it an ILA thing where we all chip in to do it?
I think that's where we would go. We would go back to the signers of the ILA and say, here's the study, here's how it's going to improve the property, the facilities for the neighborhood, for HUD, and you know, present it back to them.
And I'd imagine HUD has to ultimately sign off on the project since they are the owner of the land.
And they have
Okay.
said that they would be in agreement.
Okay.
Now, they have not, you know, talked about any monetary.
So they said, sure, fix it. And
Yeah.
then you said, hey,
Yeah, sure,
got
improve our
$1,000.
property.
And let me say, like, just for the public, this is not Flagler Schools requesting that this be done.
Right.
This is the Carver Advisory Board, where we do have members that sit on, and that was the request from that advisory board. So we're bringing this to you on their behalf because you, as the school board, are a part of that agreement. So when, you know, as people are listening, I don't want them to think that this is our request that we're saying do this. This is, the request is coming from the advisory board, and we're bringing this to you to say just what we are all saying. Yeah, the 1580 doesn't seem like a big deal. However, we understand that in the event that, or when a recommendation comes forward, and it will vary of what, options there may be, we know that that will be followed by a request to actually do the work, and none of these entities have agreed to go beyond that. They have not yet said, yes, we're gonna do the 1580, and they have not yet said, yes, we'll do whatever the work is after the 1580, but that is the request that's coming before you.
So the question is, do we spend the money for the study, not knowing that we have the financial support, or do we just say, like, we will manage and run this, but we need to have the financial support agreement?
Well, we do similar things in plant services where we will get a proposal on a project, and no, we don't have the money to do that this year, let's put that on the shelf for later on. So, I mean, it follows similar to that.
And that is
line.
their request from the Carver Advisory Board, and I know Ms. Chong, you can definitely speak to this, is to say, if we don't know what the options are or what the cost will be for these options, then there will not be a plan for us to ever do it. So maybe it's this year, maybe it's next year, whatever. That's their request, is for this board to be one of the 5 that says, yes, we'll do the 1580 to see what it will look like. And then from there, we would determine what next steps are.
How long does this last? this study, like how long is this usable? Is it
the proposal?
The engineer drawings?
Engineer's drawing, are these, because for example, you go to you finally say, okay, well, now we got the money for the project. Well, do we have to go back now and do that? Because they expired, new codes come in, things like that?
Those would be depending on what changes from now. I would say typically 3 to 5 years would probably be really pushing it, but I would say within 3 years, the drawings and would still be applicable as long as the codes haven't changed drastically.
From the study part, obviously, for us to all pitch in at $1,500, not probably fair investment in this project. But do we have an idea of what the scope of the cost is going to be? Even though, we know we won't get hard numbers, but usually before you invest up front, you kind of know, hey, typically for something like this is a $5 million, this is $100,000, it's 10, whatever it is, you have an idea of what you're getting into. Because if we don't have, if there's not support for the larger number, at least to say, hey, yeah, that looks like something all the municipalities can work with, then why even spend the money for this study in the first place?
So they did get some budget numbers, however, not based off of, it was just civil contractors looking at it. That's kind of when Dave and I got involved, because St. John's Water Management District was not part of that. So to say how much it may be right now is very difficult, because as you can see, there's water issues, and in the city of Bunnell, drainage is not the best either. So there's a lot of unknown factors. Me personally, it's every bit of a 6-figure number. I don't believe it's anywhere going to be $1 million at all. But again, if a retention pond needs to be dug, what does that look like? So it could be somewhere between 125 to 400,000. Roughly.
It
those
also
are just
depended on, will there be millings?
Correct.
Right.
What is
Was it paving, or was it millings or
But what
stone?
about if it's known that it's a safety concern? So I guess that, both attorneys, so how does that come into play? Because we know safety, it could be any parking lot. I'll just, Walmart, Target, and we have a student or a faculty or someone that is just there. So now we know it's a safety concern, and I'm not saying just our responsibility, but you can't just forget about that, correct? If we know it's a safety concern, that's a legal issue that potentially could happen, and it's a safety concern, and I've been there, it is pretty unsafe to walk. So how does that come into play if we get something done, and you have to fix it?
Well, we
can't-
don't own the property. I mean, I want our students to be safe and everybody to
Yeah.
use, but it's not our property.
Yeah, not necessarily
Yeah.
us, but I'm saying if
Exactly,
we
but
know
yeah,
in general,
in
like,
general.
we know, the community knows, so.
If
I'm
we're
just-
talking in the six figures, then I think these numbers are reasonably doable at some point in time to get it done. I just wanted to make sure that I had some understanding of what it might cost to do this project. There's no crystal ball exactly, but you look at this, you have problems with flooding. So what happens? You elevate the parking lot, now the building floods, right? So then it goes to your retention pond and runoff and all that. But all this is to get the information. We're not making any commitments beyond that.
Correct.
And so that we can plan for the future, no matter what it costs. And then.
And that would not fall on us, though, if, say, we get that done, and, then, like, oh, it costs $500,000, and we're out because it's not really ours, but it's not done, and then someone gets injured. That's what, I guess my question would be,
So we will continue to work with that group. We will look at it from all of those angles, and we will bring more information to you as we hear from the other municipalities if they are a yes for it or no from it, and we'll bring back more
And
information to you.
my hope is just to start the conversation, that, try to help them and.
Yeah, I mean, if it really comes down to $1,500 to get the study done, I think it's worthwhile. We are invested there. We have programming there. It's not a matter of just, that we don't own the building, but, as Ms. Ramirez said, whether it's our legal duty or not, we want to make sure that everybody that uses it is safe. And that could potentially flood out a car, it looks like, I mean, those pictures are pretty.
And those pictures were, I believe, roughly a month ago, so those are
Pretty
current pictures.
Yeah, and just, anything like electrical
And even
lines
without
that
the
fall
water,
in there, that becomes
it's
there's
not.
a lot of things that are concerning.
I'm sure
Okay.
if you drove by there right now, it probably
Probably
looks
look
very
like
similar to
that. Yeah, it's been raining a lot.
Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, we'll just wait and see what everybody else is doing, and then
And we'll bring it back.
Okay.
I would imagine it'd be in June, because I know that we're not going to hear anything back from Flagler County until after their meeting.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right.
thank you, Sven.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
And
Ms.
12.04,
Mr. Davis.
Sesame Reserve with Ms. Davina.
Was
And
it-
only a
did HUD
few more
recently
minutes and
do
we'll
that, or
definitely
has that been a while
be
now
back.
that they said that they were okay with the project?
That was at one of the meetings at the
Just
Carver
just
Foundation.
recently? Okay, because I didn't think they had that before. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's new. All right, thanks. Sorry.
Good afternoon, Chair Chong, board members, and Superintendent Moore. I bring to you the proportionate share mitigation agreement for the project known as Sesame Reserve. It is 93 single-family unit development. It is anticipated to generate about
Which page would you like?
5.
the page where the map is,
21 students.
I think page 13.
16, I'm sorry, 21.
Yeah, 21.
So there are going to be 21 students that are going to be generated by the project, anticipated, and then 8 are zoned for Bunnell, 5 are zoned for Buddy Taylor, and 8 for FBC. As you know, we can accommodate the elementary students, but we do not have any space right now in the middle school and high school levels. So they are going to mitigate 13 student stations. That's about $489,000, and it will be broken down, as you know, into 30% payments of $141,700. And for each mitigation payment, we will issue school impact fee voucher credits. So for these single-family units, the voucher credit would be equal to $5,450 for the single-family impact fee. And then the last 10% will be paid directly to the city during building permit application. Are there any questions?
So you're saying that they're only paying for 13 because technically after we get a portable that we're only
No.
under capacity? You said they're only paying for 13.
13 student stations, which is the 5 middle school and 8 high schools.
'Cause there's space
Okay,
at
because we
Manal.
have the
Yes.
space. Okay, that's what I just wanted. So, let's say if we took what the impact fees are, and we said, okay, let's take 1,000 students. If you multiplied out the impact fee they're giving us per student, is that enough to build a school? Basically, I'm saying, is that the amount that it costs? So does that need to be looked at again? Because if technically they're paying an impact fee that isn't even half of what it would take to build a school, we aren't given that capital funds from the state in order to be able to come up with the other half. So what is that amount that they're giving us? If we just took 1,000 students, right, what do we get out of 1,000 students in aggregate?
So let me go through how we calculated the impact fees. So the way we calculated the impact fees during the study is we took all the cost of serving those students, the transportation, the debt payments that we have, and all the other costs that goes into those impact fees. And so and then there's another factor to it is the student generation. So what they did was take all those costs and factor in the student generation rate. For example, our single-family elementary is 0.084, so for every 1,000 or 100, you generate 0.084 students. So that impact fee, for example, $1,000 or 1,000 times whatever the cost was, say the cost factor right now for
So can I add in, so when we calculate this number here for the proportionate share, we have a formula that we use. Part of that formula is the 5450, which is our current impact fee. And then we have a table that the DOE uses that changes monthly for what the student station cost is for an elementary school student, for a middle school student, and a high school student. So that's how we would come up with the cost.
Okay. So that number that you're saying the state gives us, if you multiply
Changes
that by
every-
1,000, sure.
Changes
just-
every month.
Sure, just
Right.
say the roundabout amount.
Yeah.
Would that get us to a school? That's what I'm wondering, how,
No.
are these competitive?
No,
No.
it wouldn't. For a high school student, it's what, 38,000 for just one high school student. And then, each one of them is, scaled down.
So
But no, it's
essentially what's
never-
happening is the system is set up where even though the developers adding homes, even if we have businesses that attract families,
It's not
we're
gonna
set
pay
up
for
to a
school.
situation where we would be taking on debt or require some sort of like tax, right, from the
We'd have to borrow.
taxpayers.
Yeah, we'd have to borrow
Or
money.
request a special facility allocation from the state, which they are doing fewer of.
Okay, so,
No, it's not going to.
yeah, so that's like,
It's not going to.
not even close, and that's what I was seeing here, and that's what I'm wondering. But the impact fees, we do control it somewhat, right? We can put forth somewhat. We could put forth some recommendations or move in that general directions to say, we got to take a look at this, because how much should we be taking on debt that our taxpayers have to pay, or takes away from the education of a student? Yes, I understand capital expenditures and all that, but in the end, it impacts our ability to keep our facilities running, and there's a lot of expenses that go into that. So when was the last time we looked at that impact fee?
22.
Our last impact fee study was in 2021. We adopted it in 2022, but that's, that was discounted.
And
The actual.
Why was it discounted?
That was a long, I wasn't on the board then, but that happened before I was on, but there was a long discussion. There's a lot of, you can go back and watch a lot of videos on that.
Yeah.
I believe it was discounted based upon the capacity needs and what the future schools, there were a lot of variables that were taken into account. But, I mean, it's one of those items that it has to go to the county for, you know,
Right.
approval from the county.
Right. Would it, because as we're looking at the population changes in our county, from the numbers we've seen, due to the declining birth rates, and that the developments that are attracting new residents to Flagler are not bringing children, right? They're still highly retired folks. That's why we're not seeing our elementary schools over capacity. So right now, even though our middle and our high school are going to be over capacity, we would most likely adjust that with portables, because unless we see a continuum of population that would demand a long-term need for an additional school, we should rely on portables. So if we look at it that way, does this mitigation impact fee cover the portable costs?
Yeah, we can't use that.
No, I'm just saying,
impact money for portables.
oh, we can't?
No.
We cannot.
They cannot
So
use
it-
the portables.
associate this to your Matanzas addition, right? So that, you may not be covering a school, but you may.
It has to be construction, like,
Yes.
It has to
okay,
be
that's
to increase
permanent.
capacity.
But when we
Increasing the
did
capacity.
Permanent.
the permanent concrete portable, what's you have a special name for them?
The
The concretables.
the two-story.
Like, that's okay?
For,
I'd have to ask
Wait,
Ms.
Matan-
Womack on the
Concretable?
concretable. The concretables.
Are we allowed to
at-
use impact fees on
At
that?
the now and at Old Kings, are we allowed to use impact fees for those? If we were to.
For additional capacity, it has to be permanent structure.
Is a concretable considered a permanent structure?
yes.
The concretable at Old Kings is a permanent structure.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's-
yeah. Probably
it's
depending on
counted in
what
our,
type.
Yes.
it's counted in
Those
our
are the
permanent.
permanent.
Okay,
So we
because
could use it.
what I'm thinking of is, I wouldn't be opposed to doing an add-on into FPC, or even though long-term it looks like our population wouldn't need a whole school, because I think it would provide us the ability to do some of the strategic programs, like the career technical education verticals we'd like to see, even if those spaces became unfilled by our base student numbers, I guess.
All right.
Yeah,
Can we
but
make sure
we-
let's stay focused on what we're talking
If I'd
about.
like.
Well, we are, and I think this is kind of, this
If
is
I
the
could-
strategy.
If I could state that.
Unless you want to put
in
that on a
June,
separate-
we're going to have an oversight meeting, and I believe Ms. Ruddy,
No, that's during a school board conference, the 11th.
it is on the 11th.
Yes.
And you're not able
No.
to make that.
It's in Tampa.
All right, well, maybe we'll have to look at the calendar for that. So, Mr. Furry, you were on the oversight meeting committee as well.
Yes. I am up in the air right now whether I'm going to attend that
Because-
FSBA meeting, so I may be able to attend, yeah.
Okay, one of the things that we were going to talk about during that meeting is the progression of how do we build a school? What are those steps? We have a step-by-step process. Portables are one of the things to relieve the capacity, but we were tasked from the working group to bring that to this meeting, and I believe we were going to sit down with each of you board members to talk about the agenda for the, for that committee, for the oversight
Don't we
committee.
need so many people at that meeting?
We're supposed to have 3 members at the meeting. One of them was Mr. Bars.
So we need to look at the calendar for that meeting.
Yeah.
Do we-
That meeting was set last year for the 11th.
It was the committee's decision.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe at the end of this meeting, can we discuss that date?
Okay.
And the 11th is right smack dab in the middle of the conference, so it's not like I could have just went late, but early, and we already paid.
Are there other questions about this Sesame Reserve portion, share mitigation?
No more questions for me.
Thank you.
12.05, drainage, isn't it, at 73 Patricia Drive?
So the city's requesting is asking to build a shallow drainage on the northern border of our wellness center, where our wellness center is located. It will serve those homes that are immediately proximate to or adjacent to that proposed drainage and part of our property. And it would be a slight slope, so the water will move slowly, and it's coming from a higher elevation to a lower elevation, so the water will move that way towards the west side of the property. They are taking this agreement. We have put in our changes, and then any installation or any construction that's going to be on that drainage easement will be borne by the city, and if there's any disturbed areas due to these activities, they will restore it to how it was or better than before those activities happened.
So how many acres is this? Because it looks like there's the swale, but there's also a large section that, are they going to is that going to be a water capture area? Or?
No, it's part. This is our
It's just-
Belterre site, or Belterre
Mhm.
pool, and it's in the back of these lots it's mainly woods back
Mhm.
there. So they're going to clear those woods, create a swale, and then have it link into the swale that is into the adjacent property on the west side. There's a swale that goes behind all the properties on the west side.
It's already there, and they will maintain this. We're just giving them the easement. Again, it'll be a ground grass that goes through all the way back to that large swale that's already currently there. And they will, again, they maintain this. We're just giving them the easement to be able to do it.
We're in perspective, so if I'm walking on there, if I'm standing, I'm in the parking lot.
Where all those words are there are basically
Yeah,
the
with the
tennis
built-
courts.
Okay, that's the
Correct.
tennis courts. Okay,
Right,
gotcha.
The entrance, if you would have come back where 27 is, that's towards the entrance of coming into the facility.
Okay.
And then that's running along all of those homes along the back going around.
So where it says notes, that's where you're saying?
Yes,
the
that's where the tennis
Okay,
courts are,
gotcha.
basically. So
Yes,
it's
sir.
behind the tennis courts.
All right, and so right now, that is just a forest with no sort of,
Correct.
nothing's really
And
there,
it's
no
actually,
infrastructure.
it's actually a benefit to us because
believe
we
so.
go in there every year and cut down trees that potentially can fall on the neighbor's property. So
Mhm.
this will clear that out and it'll be a benefit.
Right, so is it gonna just be a typical swale that's just dug out and managed? To
Correct.
keep
Like
the
a
water
grass swale,
flowing?
Correct. It's not piping or anything, so you-
Right.
the ground level on both sides will be like this, and then it'll swell down.
Okay.
Like, we believe it'll also help on the backside of our property there,
For
because that will
drainage,
be,
yeah.
correct, that'll be lower.
All right.
So some of that will also go into that.
And then what was the part where they said they would restore it to the same or better? What was that part you had said?
Just because they're gonna be on our property, so, you know, where that swale is, if they've disturbed or whatever, they're gonna make sure that it's back. They're not just gonna leave, like, trees knocked down in the
Oh,
earth
okay.
on our property, just
The
destroyed.
debris, things like that, it'll be
Correct.
clean and, okay.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha, aesthetically and, all debris, okay, very good. Is there any reason why this would, I mean, it sounds like an enhancement, but just from your opinion, is there anything that if we decided to do, build something on that property in the future, that this would hurt that effort in any way?
In my opinion, I think it would help,
Okay.
because we have, you know, if we were to need to run off again, there's a swell there that would be there that would help us with drainage on that particular site if we needed to do something, in my
Right.
opinion.
Because it's an easement, so we're giving them the rights to that area in perpetuity, right? So, that's the only thing that, I'm just think about, because it is a large parcel, and if it was to be used for another purpose, if that would hinder, because if we build something there, we'd probably have to build a pond or something like that, you
Yes,
know,
we probably
also,
would.
Yes.
right?
And the easement also is because they have to maintain it. They're gonna be maintaining that though, so if it does start backing up, we would say, hey, you guys need, that swale needs work, whatever that may be, from our perspective. So as far as the district, we do not have to, you know, there's no cost for us to maintain it
Right.
or do any of that.
Okay, it seems like a win-win at the end of the day, so.
All right, any other questions on this? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
14.01, Mr. Drollette. For the RFP for banking and P-card services.
Good afternoon, Chair Chong, Vice Chair Furry, members of the board, and Superintendent Moore. Ramirez Bank is currently our provider of banking and treasury services, and JP Morgan Chase Bank is currently providing our P-card services to the district. Both contracts were established 5 years ago under RFP number 21-02, and they've exhausted all available renewal options. The district recently solicited proposals for both banking and P-card services through a new RFP titled RFP number 26-02. Banking services and P-card services were evaluated and scored separately for these RFP. This was to ensure that both services would be provided at the best value to the district. After reviewing and scoring all submitted proposals, the average scores for each proposal were the sole factor used to determine the vendor recommended for award. The evaluation committee recommends that the school board of Flagler County award both banking services and P-card services to JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. We were expecting to have the proposed contract available for the board to read in advance of this meeting. Due to an unexpected delay, the contract has not been finalized yet. My understanding is that it has been held up by the legal team of the vendor. If we do not receive the finalized contract within 48 hours or end of day on Thursday, we will request to move this agenda item to the June board agenda. Do you guys have any questions?
Yes, on your weighted evaluation, I see on the banking services that you have earnings potential, which I'm assuming is in reference to the interest rate on savings they might provide you. Why on the P-card services are the transaction percent charges not reflected in your weighted rubric? They say that they're going to charge 2.54% on top of the 2.17% for ECR transaction fees.
Yes, the fees were supposed to be weighted into the scope of work / services and quality of services portion for P-cards as quality of services. We did not include fees as a separate evaluation criteria.
Fees is included in the net investment earnings.
And where on the rubric, though? I'm not, so like when you're lining up, I'm assuming that the transaction fees of the P-cards would be a top item that you're comparing, right? So similar in the interest rate earnings in a bank account. So are you saying that that's within the scope of work?
Are you referring to just the P cards right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the P card, similar to the bank, we don't see fees. They're netted out of the interest earnings. What should happen is anything we earn above the interest would come back to us net of all the fees.
Okay, so you're
So
saying
for-
they take our interest minus all the transaction costs for the P card and then give us that amount of money, and so that's reflected in the banking. So if you went with separate vendors, though, that wouldn't happen.
It's two separate contracts.
Right, but, so you evaluated the banking separate from P card, even
Correct.
though they technically have to be connected for you to really understand that overall net cost or benefit.
Yes
'Cause
and
like,
no.
well-
I mean, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
When we did this 5 years ago, it was not better for us to go with one bank for both because based on the criteria that we saw in the RFPs that were submitted. So we had one bank for banking and then another bank for the P cards. This year, when we evaluated it based on the RFPs, it was more advantageous based on all the criteria, based on the scoring, to choose the same bank for both. It just happened to go that way. But we're not going into the same, we only want one bank for both.
Yeah, and so that's where I think my, why have two separate weighted, if we have to do it to marry it together? Why are we weighting the P card separate from the banking services if that benefit, if that score for the P card is technically also related to the banking service?
It's not related to the banking service. The P card.
I thought you just said it was subtracted out so that
For the bank, right, for the banking, any fees that we get for banking
Mhm.
is netted out of the interest earnings that we get on our account balances.
Right, so that's reflected in the banking rubric,
Correct.
right? Not the P card rubric.
Correct. For the P card, the earnings we get from the P card will be on their rebate and how
Okay.
that is calculated.
Okay, so you're saying that we get earnings like you would get points, and so that in addition is part of the P card
Mhm.
rubric. And since you're saying that our savings always outweigh our transaction costs, we're not getting hit.
I didn't say that.
Oh, because, okay. So that's where in the banking part it says there's a earnings rate. So I was assuming, and I'm sorry, if that's not the case. So sometimes the transaction fees do outweigh?
It can. It depends on the transaction fees.
So again, that's what I'm saying. Why do we not have transaction fees as a comparable line item in order to evaluate the P card choice?
Okay, so we're talking about just P card right now, right?
Well, so that's compounded by your previous answer, whereas if they're going to be tied, then maybe our current rubric doesn't work. We have to have a rubric that involves banking and P cards, and they're married together, where we can clearly see them. Because if you're saying it's advantageous to keep the same vendor for both services, why are we
This go round.
evaluating them
Because there are,
separately?
because not all banks offer P card services or
Okay.
great P card services. So that's the issue that we came in with
Okay.
5 years ago. So when we went out for bid 5 years ago, the bank that we were with was just kind of starting up their P card, right? So it wasn't strong, whereas some other banks that submitted it had very strong, long-standing P card services.
Okay.
So that's why 5 years ago, it ended up that we went JP Morgan
You
for the
had
P
two.
card
Okay.
versus the banking services for our current bank that we have now.
Okay.
This year, when it was evaluated, I can talk about my score, I
Uh-huh.
can't talk about anybody else's, but when I looked at the evaluation for the banking, it was based on just those criteria, the interest earnings, the service, the representative, all the different criteria you see. And then when you look at the P card criteria, we only had 3 banks bid. One is a very large bank, 2 are not national banks, I do not believe. So the criteria from my lens of what they could offer in services and rebate far exceeded others. Just talking about that criteria.
Okay. Mhm. Yeah, so you're saying sometimes you marry it and sometimes you don't. So I do think it would be.
No, it's never married.
It's never married together.
They're two separate contracts.
They're two separate
So
contracts.
so
Right,
there's-
but you're saying you selected them together this time.
No.
They're two separate bids. This time, it just happened to be that each bid went to the same bank.
Okay.
They are
So-
not married together
So we
in
go
any way.
full circle, why do we not evaluate them on the transaction fees, similar in how we rate the banking in terms of the interest earned? Like, or is that somewhere, is that in the scope
When
of
you
work,
look-
quality of
when-
services?
When you look at the RFP submitted, all of the fees are included in there,
Mhm.
along with the interest potential. It's all in there. So when you look at for the banking, when you look at the fees and the interest, what you're looking for is the net interest
Mhm.
potential. I want to reiterate, that is one criteria.
Right, but I'm looking at your overall scoring summary, okay? And I don't see where that scoring would have been taken out of their proposal and reflected in that score. Otherwise, what is the measurement of scope of work, services, quality of services? What are the required elements to get a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? If not, well, how much are they charging us in transaction fees? Like, how is that not part of the rubric?
It's part of the earnings potential.
Okay, so where's the earnings potential here? In the rebate offer?
For P cards?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the rebate offer is the benefits we're gonna get minus the transaction costs.
I would have to look at the RFP, but the earnings potential that is analyzed,
Right.
I don't remember how it was set up for P card, but
Mhm.
the earnings potential,
Mhm.
I can speak for myself,
Mhm.
is the net the net earnings we would get, less the
Mhm.
fees.
Mhm.
We don't get charged for fees on any statement, it's just the charges that we get
Mhm.
on P
Okay.
cards.
Well, that's, in this JP Morgan Chase, it's stating that you're gonna get 2.54% for transaction costs. You know how now they
Can you tell
sometimes.
me what page you're on?
Yeah, let me go to it. Page 8 on in the PDF summary. Bullet point number 1, managed ECR of 2.27% to offset service fees and a managed interest rate of 2.17% on excess balances, which we don't carry excess balances, so it should be, are those ECR 2.27%, are those transactional cost fees?
Are you looking at the proposal?
I'm looking at the thing that's attached.
Yeah,
There's two attachments, right?
It's,
The
no, it's
PDF.
directly above your weighted summary on page 8.
It's called response document report.
And it's in the message to Flagler County Schools.
Which PDF number
Dear
is it at the top
Peter.
in the bar there? It says
8. 8 of 206.
8? I didn't see any numbers on that.
Yeah.
Page 8
Oh,
towards
there
the
it is.
bottom.
Okay, now I see it.
First
Yeah, okay,
bullet.
gotcha.
So you can see how that made me think, oh, we're getting charged transaction fees. And so why would we not compare? And it was weird, how do we see JP Morgan's? I guess it's because it's the one you selected, but we're not seeing
The other
options that were
They're
there.
they're all posted on where we post all of our bids.
Okay.
Which is it open now?
Yes,
Yeah.
open government.
So when we bring these
Yes,
to
you're
the
right.
board,
Mhm.
what's presented is the winner, if you will,
Totally
based
get
on the
that.
committee.
That would be 1,000 pages.
Right.
Right, so, but you can see how I went, oh, there's a rubric, they're evaluating it. Where is the reflection, so I don't have to go to, right, or anybody, or how did you guys analyze it? Or am I misinterpreting what this ECR transaction fee is?
I don't believe you're misinterpreting it, but I think it's hard to take that one sentence and summarize the 400 pages of each proposal that was submitted.
Right.
So in the proposals, there are very detailed charts. JP Morgan, for one specifically, was the one that compared what we currently are charged, what we currently get on interest for both bids, and what they would recommend. So it was very, like, when, if you were to dig down into this, theirs was crystal clear, from my perspective,
Right.
of what we are currently seeing versus what we could be seeing.
Okay.
Could you send the link just to Ms. Ruddy for the other bid so she can
Oh, I
see
can
the
go for it.
comparison?
It's in the business.
And, I mean, because that's basically what you're looking for, right? It's just, that you
Well,
want
it
to see what
doesn't
it was
make
compared
sense
against.
to me that we have subjective elements on this rubric, quality of services experience, like based on what? Well, quality, I'd want to know, well, how much am I going to be charged, or how much am I going to earn? If it's in the rebate, is that rebate taking into account this 2.27%? I can go back and look at the comparative rebates, but she's saying it wasn't necessarily a hard and fast number. It's their interpretation of the value of the rebate, which is a
So-
1 to 5 Likert scale.
So I understand your
Right.
point. What's difficult is, we have a committee for a reason. Everyone's going to interpret each criteria separately.
Mhm.
So that's why we have a committee and not just one person or two people doing it. What I may favor as scope of services might not be what Angie favors as scope of services.
Mhm.
It all depends. I mean, we had payroll on the committee, we had P-card on the committee, and then finance
But
leads
the
on the
very
committee.
basics are, right, so that means there's hard criteria and soft criteria. Hard criteria are, how much am I charging and how much am I getting earned, which should be a raw number comparative in the rubric. The other is soft. How well is, how fast do they answer my question in their online form, right? Or
The level
how
of
many
service, which
years
is very, very critical for
But
these
that-
two bids.
Your rubric doesn't define what a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is, so it's, to your point, subjective to the individual holder. But what is not subjective are those hard elements of, what is the interest rate I'm earning? What are the transaction fees I'm being charged, right? That's what I'm, was recommending when we started. Why is that not in the valuation rubric that determines the weighted score upon which you're selecting your vendor?
I don't have an answer for that.
Well,
I mean, these are the
okay, if I'm
criteria.
just trying to summarize.
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's the way they do
It's just
it.
that
I
it's
understand it now,
It's not
the way
always
I would
coming
do it.
down to the percentage of the money. It could be one person on the committee says, well, I value the fact that they have a
But it
robust
should be
customer
something you're
service.
evaluating very clearly.
But all the committee take all that into consideration. There's not a line item for cost in your evaluation?
It's the
No.
earnings
Yeah,
potential.
potential,
Right.
Okay. Well, here's what I'd suggest. Is this going to be voted on the 19th? Okay.
If we
So
get the contract.
What I would
within
say
48
is,
hours.
Ms. Ruddy, review the committee's results, and if you have, after reviewing that, if you see something different, we can bring it up at the 1 PM.
Yeah, I was trying to understand the rubric so that I would understand their scoring system, right? And that's where this
All right,
went
well, I'm just saying, if
into.
there's an objection to the recommendation of staff, bring that back, because right now, it's either we go with JP Morgan or we don't, and we send them back to the drawing board.
But every RFP is driven by a committee that, like I said, would not always interpret everything the same way. That's why we have varied people on
I
there.
totally understand that. But what I don't understand, and this is not against you, I'm not gonna stop this, decision from what I'm saying is, when I'm sitting here where I'm on the line for making the right and wrong fiscal decision, and what's best for our constituents' money, is I wanna know not the soft evaluation criteria, but the hard criteria of the numbers, right? What is that rebate based upon, right?
It's based upon spend.
So that's but then how, head to head. If you guys don't want to change your evaluation rubric, we're not going to change it now and redo this process. I can at a later time bring up, I think we should take a look at or recommend that in your processes, you change your evaluation rubric to clearly reflect
Is there
those
any
cost benefits.
information related to this that we can bring back to
I'm
you
good,
related
thank
to
you.
the question that you have?
I will tell you, Mrs. Ruddy, just for clarification, and I do understand your points. The real fees come into the banking contract. That is where you're feed to death,
Mhm.
right? Like, if I'm gonna be concerned about fees, it's in that banking contract.
Mhm.
Because that's where you get charged for every deposit, every check you write, every time you do a wire online. I mean, for me, and what I've seen, the fee concern is not with the P cards.
And that's the one that keeps you up at night. Okay.
It's the banking one.
Got it.
Because if you were to look at our monthly analysis statements and look at the pages of fees that we get charged every day, it is insane.
Insane. Yeah.
So if that helps, that's the fee. That really is a concern for the banking.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, the RFP document itself has more information on the scoring rubric, which is available on OpenGov. I'd be
Yeah.
happy to provide it if you'd like. The proposals from other banks are not publicly available on OpenGov, but I'd be happy to send them to the board if you'd like to directly compare all of the proposals.
No, my job isn't to question your decision. My job is to ensure we have proper evaluative tools. And that's what I'm questioning.
I believe the RFP document could help clear up some of those questions. And I did misspoke earlier when I said the interest rate was included in quality of service, scope of service. It's actually included in rebate offer. There's a more detailed description in the RFP document.
Thank you so much.
And I just had just a few questions, and I know we'll have the contract hopefully within 48 hours, but are you aware of what this contract term length would be for this specific one?
It's 5 years.
5 years? Is that just normal for?
That's standard.
Okay. And then is there a reason that, other than, you know, your rubric that you went through, not staying locally to a smaller bank compared to a much larger entity? So like anything specific?
I can't speak on behalf of the other committee members. JP Morgan has several local branches in neighboring counties and in our county, just as our current bank does. I do believe that, from my opinion, a larger bank has a lot more to offer on certain levels in certain areas. It's pros and cons of both.
Thank you.
By the school board's definition, they are technically a local vendor because they do have a physical presence here, not just a PO box and full-time employees. Local preference was not afforded on this particular RFP because it was advised that when paying with federal funds, we're not allowed to use geographical preference.
Okay.
It was advised by the general counsel of the district to not include that specifically for this one.
But to Peter's point, all three that submitted would be considered local.
Yes.
Thanks, y'all. Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Wilmer.
you.
Mr. Jollett, Ms. Bush. All right, grade 19.01, that will be for the 6 p.m.
Yep,
Okay.
and you can read the language on it. The board just has to select someone to be that individual.
Do we have anybody for public comment?
No, we do not.
All right, and board member requests, and I think we have to discuss that date.
Well, I think they have to, not the board.
Not right now?
Yeah, not the board.
Oh, okay.
Just those 2 board members that are on that committee.
Okay. Any request?
So our budget is adopted in July, and I don't know if this is feasible, but some type of request of, like, bringing to the board, you know, a market compensation analysis for all employee. So we're not having to pick and choose departments, and I know all of them are, okay. So, yeah, so just something like that, is that feasible to do before the budget in July, or like
So just one item though, are you directing them to go to a consultant, which would be tens of thousands of dollars, or are you asking them to do research on open sources?
Whatever they feel is best, that would work. I mean,
I'm not, I would prefer not to spend $20,000.
No.
Is there
But I just don't.
specific?
The ask is so we're not picking and choosing departments, basically.
We
So-
brought forward a request to do a salary study. That was not the will of the board. What was the will of the board is that we began working on that internally, said we have the capacity. In doing that, it takes time for us to do that. So we will absolutely bring forward, next steps for it, but it is nothing that will be done for all employees by this budget, by the time you adopt this budget. Now, the majority of your employees will have been addressed already because those individuals, the majority of your employees are a part of a bargaining unit. And so the majority of your employees will be addressed by then. It is those professional administrator positions that are not a part of the bargaining unit, and we will do our very best to bring you a recommendation for changes when we would normally bring our salary schedules forward to you for approval.
Thank you.
Any other requests? Okay, let's move on to closing comments.
So, fast test, STAR test ending this week. All the kids have been doing great. I wanted to point out, we talked about ESOL a little bit today, and I met a family who their son from Ecuador went through ESOL, that these grants come from, people like Miss York working really, really hard to get, and that parent was so excited for her son, his English. So the things that we're doing behind the scenes, I do appreciate it. I know it's a lot of work and, the conversations that we have to go through and then behind the scenes, but I saw it this past weekend. ESOL student from Ecuador doing amazing. And I think really just the end of the year, lots of events are going on, lots of promotions, graduations, SAC meetings ending up, booster clubs, PTOs, all the organizations, clubs, sports, honor society. So everyone just, enjoy it while it lasts. And thank you everyone for all the hard work today and this morning.
Great. I want to thank Mr. Walker, Dr. Halliday, Mr. Reeves, Dr. O'Brien for meeting with me where we extensively went through some of the challenges of the VPK and para programs, as well as the amazing work that they've done this year to support our paras, and the progression of the training that's being provided, their long-term strategy view, I think is on point. And we worked together where I advocated for some additional items that I think will benefit all of those paras in those positions, whether they're VPK or not, so that's great. I also want to thank Mr. Evans, Dr. O'Brien, Ms. Moore, for entertaining my request to visit Seminole County schools and their programs specific to their magnet schools and their verticals of career and technical education that they have within each one of their high schools. Their superintendent, their assistant superintendent of CTE, as well as one of their school board members joined us, and we had a full day. We learned a lot. It was definitely resourceful in helping us shape our vision of where we'd like to take the CTE programs, essentially Diploma Plus, and ensure that we have a very clear vertical, meaning a progression within a particular skill area, as well as some ideas in order to engage with our partners for funding and partnerships to help develop that talent pipeline. So that was very rewarding, and I know that taking a whole day away from our Flagler activities was a challenge for the team, but I was very appreciative, and I think we came away with a lot learned. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the board and staff today. We've had a long day. A lot of people may or may not know we do other meetings outside of this here, and we did executive session today, and we've got more of that during bargaining, and it's a lot of work, and we had some great conversation today and moved things along. So that's wonderful, and I just want to also to say Happy Mother's Day, because it was Sunday. I just want to say happy birthday to the mothers on the board, Superintendent Moore, and all those mothers of our wonderful scholars as well. We're grateful for all you do. And this is an exciting time of the year. We're, as Ms. Ramirez said, we're headed to the promotions and the graduations, and this is our main event. This is why we do what we do. So I'm very excited. It's one of my favorite times of the year, and have a wonderful evening.
I'll just echo all that and thank you to our district staff for your time and listening to us today.
It is a great time of year and so many great things to get accomplished over the next few days. And I just too want to say thank you to our students, our staff, and our community for all that they do to support us here at Flagler Schools. And we hope you guys all have a good night. Go ahead, Mr. Friedman.
168.
Happy 168th day of school.
Meeting is adjourned.
Oh.